4 days before Christmas, Lillian Porter called me while I was standing in the hardware store comparing two identical furnace filters that had somehow been priced $7 apart. Nora, honey, I just need your approval on Paige's changes before I run the final balance. I lowered the cheaper filter. What changes? The extra tenderloin, the crab appetizer, and the individual chocolate soufflés. I told her those can be temperamental on delivery, but she says Caleb's mother loves them. A man beside me shook a box, listening for whatever secrets furnace filters keep. Lillian, why are you asking me? There was a pause filled with keyboard clicks. Because it's your order. No, it isn't. Another pause. Lillian read my full name, address, phone number, and the last 4 digits of my credit card. She even had the note I always added about keeping the horseradish sauce separate because my father swore it tasted like gasoline and then ate it anyway. At the top of the order, under responsible party, was my name. I tightened my grip on the cardboard frame. I'm not even going to Christmas dinner. This time, Lillian stopped typing. What do you mean you're not going? My sister told my parents I wasn't allowed to come. They agreed. Somewhere behind Lillian, metal pans clattered. Then why did Paige say you were handling the boring part like always? That was the question, really. Not why Paige had used my name. Why she had been so certain I would still feed everyone after they removed my chair. 5 weeks earlier, I had arrived at my parents' house for Thanksgiving carrying a roasting pan, 2 bags of groceries, and a glass bowl of cranberry sauce wedged against my hip like a football. My mother opened the door, saw my hands were full, and said, "Oh, good, you brought ice. Happy Thanksgiving to you, too." She kissed the air beside my cheek and took 1 grocery bag. Your father bought 1 bag, 1. As if 12 adults are going to have 3 cubes apiece and politely switch to tap water. There are 10 adults. Caleb's parents might stop by. For Thanksgiving, they're spontaneous. Behind her, my father called, "Is that Nora? Ask her about the thermostat. I can hear you, Dad." "Well, ask yourself, then." That was Martin Whitaker's idea of comedy. He appeared in the hallway wearing the same brown cardigan he wore every Thanksgiving, though one elbow had developed a pale, shiny patch. He took the roasting pan from me and nearly tipped the rolls onto the floor. "Careful. I've carried heavier things. Not with your good hand." Both of his hands were good. He had once strained his right wrist opening a stuck jar and had been promoted to medically fragile for 6 months. He leaned toward me. The thermostat says 72, but it feels like 68. That's because Mom has the back door open. Elaine looked offended. "I'm airing out the kitchen." "You're heating the yard, see?" Dad said. "She understands machinery." I didn't. I understood doors. By noon, I had moved the turkey from the oven to the counter, found the missing gravy boat in the laundry room, and discovered that my mother had purchased unsalted butter, despite considering unsalted butter a personal insult. She denied buying it until I showed her the receipt still stuck to the package. I was distracted, she said. By what? The woman behind me had purple hair. That was my mother's other gift. She could offer an explanation that answered nothing and still make you feel rude for asking a second question. Paige arrived at 12:20 carrying grocery store flowers and Caleb Ross. She came through the kitchen first, which meant she knew she was late and wanted to be seen bringing something before anyone could mention it. My sister looked expensive, even when she wasn't. Camel coat, cream sweater, small gold hoops, dark hair twisted into the kind of loose knot that required 40 minutes and 17 pins. "Please tell me those aren't the only flowers you bought," Mom said. Paige stopped. "Hello to you, too. I meant because they're beautiful. That is not remotely what you meant." Caleb came in behind her with 2 bottles of wine tucked under one arm. He was tall, careful, and always seemed to enter a room as though someone had just finished explaining the rules to him. "Happy Thanksgiving, Nora." "Happy Thanksgiving. You're my favorite so far. You brought wine." "I brought wine," Paige said. "You carried flowers." "I selected the wine." Caleb held up the bottles. "I paid for it, if we're dividing credit." Paige turned and kissed him, smiling. "See why I keep him?" There was a little performance to them since the engagement, nothing offensive, just polished. Paige touched his wrist when she laughed. Caleb anticipated when she wanted her coat taken. They looked like people in a commercial for a hotel neither of them could afford. She handed me the flowers. What am I supposed to do with these? Put them in water. I know the agricultural process. Why am I doing it? Because you're standing by the sink. I was standing by the oven. Still, I found a vase. The meal went well for almost 40 minutes. That was close to a Whitaker family record. We sat around my parents' dining table with my Aunt Denise, her wife, Monica, and 2 neighbors who had been coming to Thanksgiving since their divorce from each other, because neither wanted to surrender my mother's stuffing. Elaine kept trying to seat them apart, and they kept ending up side by side. Dad told the story about the first Thanksgiving after he and Mom got married, when he had tried to deep fry a turkey in a borrowed pot. "You've never deep fried anything in your life," Mom said. I attempted to. "You lowered it 3 inches, screamed, and dropped the whole thing." I did not scream. "You made a sound only dolphins could hear," Aunt Denise said. Everyone laughed. Dad did too. It was a good story. It had been a good story the first dozen times. Lately, he told it more often, sometimes forgetting he'd told the same person only a week before. I had noticed. Mom had noticed me noticing, which was not the same as discussing it. Dad reached the part about the oil bubbling over when Paige leaned toward Caleb and said, not quite quietly enough, "He's going to tell this at our wedding, isn't he?" Caleb gave her a warning look. She widened her eyes innocently. "What?" "He tells it every time someone serves poultry." Dad kept talking, but one of his hands went still beside his plate. I watched Paige spear a roasted carrot. "You could let him finish," I said. She glanced at me. "I am letting him finish. You're also making fun of him." "Oh, come on." Dad smiled too broadly. "It's all right. I know I repeat myself." "That wasn't what I meant," Paige said. "Yes, it was," I said. Mom set down the gravy ladle. "Nora." There it was. Not Paige, don't mock your father at his own table. "Nora, don't make your sister uncomfortable about doing it." Caleb cleared his throat. "The turkey story is new to me." "Thank you," Dad said, relieved. So the oil comes up over the side, and Martin reaches for the pot, Mom said, rescuing him by taking over the story he had been telling. Conversation stumbled forward. Aunt Denise asked Caleb about his work. One of the divorced neighbors accused the other of stealing the crisp skin from the turkey leg. Paige talked about a restaurant where the plates were handmade in Vermont. I cut my food and knew I should leave it alone. I had spent years knowing when to leave things alone. That knowledge had never made me happier. After dinner, Paige found me scraping plates over the trash can. "You embarrassed me in front of Caleb." I kept scraping. "You embarrassed Dad in front of everyone." "He wasn't embarrassed until you announced he should be." He stopped talking. "Because you turned it into a thing." She stacked 2 glasses in a way that made me reach over and separate them before they chipped. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Put glasses inside each other. You seriously cannot help yourself. I don't want Mom's glasses broken. No, you want everyone to know you're the only competent person in the room." I looked at her. Up close, Paige seemed more tired than she had at the table. The skin beneath her eyes was faintly gray under her makeup. "I told you not to mock Dad. You corrected me in front of my fiancé like I was 12. Then don't act 12. Her mouth tightened. That was too easy, and I knew it as soon as I said it. Paige could be selfish, but she wasn't stupid. She had been hearing the same family roles I had all her life. Nora is capable. Paige is sensitive. Nora can handle it. Paige needs support. Compliments with job assignments hidden inside them. "You love this," she said. "Washing plates? Being the good daughter?" I laughed once. "That's what you think this is? You always have to be the one who remembers everything. Dad's pills, Mom's grocery list, the exact time the turkey has to rest. Then you wait for someone to slip up so you can give that little sigh. I sigh because I'm tired, then stop doing everything." I put a plate in the dishwasher. "Gladly." She rolled her eyes because neither of us believed me. From the dining room, Mom called, "Nora, did you bring containers for leftovers?" Paige lifted both eyebrows. I opened the cabinet under the island and took out the containers I had brought. "Wow," she said softly. "Thank God you were here." She meant it as an insult. The problem was, everybody did act grateful when I was useful. That was close enough to love that I had spent most of my adult life accepting the exchange rate. Paige picked up the wine glasses and carried them toward the dining room. At the doorway, she stopped. And for the record, Dad does repeat himself. A lot. I'm allowed to notice. You're allowed to notice. You're not required to make him feel small. She turned back. But you are? Before I could answer, Mom came into the kitchen holding a platter coated in congealing gravy. "What is going on?" "Nothing," Paige said. "Nora?" "Of course," she asked me. We disagreed. "About Dad," Paige said. "Nora thinks I'm abusing him." "I didn't say that. She called me 12. You were whispering jokes while he was talking." Mom closed her eyes. "Can we please have one holiday without this?" I almost laughed. Without what? This tension. This need to correct each other. "I didn't hear you correct Paige." Mom opened her eyes. The hurt appeared instantly, summoned like a stage light. "I don't know why you're coming at me. I'm not coming at you. I have been cooking since 6 this morning." I looked around the kitchen, at the roasting pan I'd brought, the potatoes I'd peeled, the rolls I'd warmed after finding them still frozen, the cranberry sauce I had made in my apartment the night before because Mom said canned sauce looked depressing. "Right," I said. Paige gave me that quick, satisfied look people give when the referee finally notices the other team's foul. Then Dad entered carrying 3 plates, smiling as if he could push cheerfulness ahead of him like a snowplow. "Who wants coffee?" Nobody answered. He looked from Paige to Mom to me. Did I miss something? Paige kissed his cheek. "No, Nora's just tired. It was such a small sentence. Almost kind." Mom relaxed because Paige had given her an exit. Dad nodded because tiredness was fixable. Coffee was fixable. A bad mood was fixable. The truth would have required everyone to stay in the kitchen. I closed the dishwasher and said, "Coffee sounds good." Paige smiled at me, but her eyes didn't. Later, while I was loading the roasting pan into my car, she came outside without her coat. Cold air lifted loose strands of her hair. "Christmas can't be like this," she said. I turned with one hand on the car door. "Like what? You know Caleb's parents are coming. Apparently they're spontaneous. I'm serious, Nora. This Christmas matters to me." I waited. She crossed her arms against the cold. "So if you're going to spend the whole night judging me, maybe don't come." For 1 second, neither of us moved. Then Mom opened the front door behind her and called, "Paige, sweetheart, you'll freeze." Paige kept looking at me. Mom did too. She had heard every word. I could tell by how carefully she avoided reacting to any of them. I waited for her to say my name. She only held the door open wider for Paige. I waited too. Mom shifted her weight behind Paige. "It's cold. Can we not do this standing in the driveway?" "We're not doing anything," Paige said. "I'm setting a boundary." She said it with the calm confidence of someone who had recently learned that any sentence became healthy if you put boundary at the end of it. Mom rubbed her arms. "Christmas is weeks away." "Exactly. So there's time for everybody to decide how they want to behave." Everybody looked at me. I had spent the entire afternoon moving around a hot kitchen. Now the sweat at the back of my neck had gone cold. I could smell wood smoke from one of the neighbors' chimneys and the faint oniony ghost of Thanksgiving clinging to my sweater. "You mocked Dad," I said. "I told you to stop. If that's your definition of me ruining Christmas, we're going to have a very long December." Paige's face changed for half a second. Not guilt. Something closer to fear, quickly converted into anger. "You don't know what I meant." "I heard what you said. You hear whatever lets you feel superior." Mom sighed. "Nora, she's telling you how she feels, and I'm telling her what happened. That's not the same thing." "No," I said. It never is around here. Mom's lips parted. Paige looked away first. I got into my car before either of them could give me another reason to stay. Dad called while I was waiting at the light by the pharmacy. You left your cranberry bowl. Keep it. It's glass. That's generally what bowls are made of. He chuckled, then went quiet. I could hear the television in the background and silverware being gathered in the kitchen. Your sister gets worked up, he said. There it was. The bridge he always built, with all the traffic expected to move in one direction. I noticed. She wants things to go well with Caleb's people. So do I. I know you do. The light turned green. I pulled forward, trying to keep my voice even. Did you hear what happened at dinner? I heard enough. Then why are you calling me? To tell you about the bowl, Dad. He exhaled. Your mother's upset. My mother is always upset when Paige and I fight. It saves her from having to decide whether either of us is wrong. That's not fair. Did Paige make fun of you? It was a joke. Did it bother you? The line went so quiet I checked the screen to make sure the call hadn't dropped. Finally, he said, I don't need you fighting my battles. It stung because there was truth in it. I had never asked him whether he wanted defending. I had seen his hand go still and stepped in because stepping in was what I did. Okay, I said, but that doesn't mean she should have said it. That was my father. He could find the truth if he approached it sideways and spoke softly enough that no one else had to hear. Okay, I said again. Come by Sunday. We'll check that thermostat. Close the back door. I did. It still feels drafty. Wear your cardigan. I am wearing my cardigan. You're wearing the brown one, aren't you? It's a classic. It's transparent at the elbow. He laughed. Sunday? I wanted to say no. I wanted one person in my family to feel the inconvenience of me not immediately coming back. Fine, I said. Sunday. He hung up happy, and I hated myself a little for resenting that. Mom called the next morning at 8:30, which was how I knew she had rehearsed. Unrehearsed, Elaine never called before 10. I barely slept, she said. I was standing barefoot in my kitchen, waiting for coffee to drip. Good morning, I kept replaying yesterday. Maybe try a podcast. Nora. I'm listening. She took a breath. Your sister should not have made that comment about your father. That surprised me enough that I stopped reaching for a mug. Thank you. But I reached for the mug again. She's under tremendous pressure. This is her first major holiday as an engaged woman, and she wants Caleb's family to see us at our best. Does our best involve making Dad feel senile? Don't use that word. I didn't say he was. I said she made him feel that way. You know how worried Paige gets about appearances. This was offered as a reason to protect her, not a reason Paige might need to change. Mom continued. She told me she felt attacked. She was attacked by one sentence. See that tone? I poured my coffee. What tone? The way you say something perfectly reasonable in a way that makes the other person feel stupid. That sounds useful. Maybe I can teach a class. I am trying to make peace. No, you're trying to get me to apologize so Paige will stop being mad. What would be so terrible about saying you're sorry for calling her 12? I am sorry I called her 12. Mom brightened. Good. Tell her that. I'm sorry I gave her an excuse to ignore everything else. The brightness disappeared. I don't understand why everything has to be so difficult with you lately. That almost made me spill my coffee. Lately, as if I had undergone a mysterious personality change rather than finally noticing a pattern old enough to vote. Did you tell her she owes Dad an apology? I suggested it. What did she say? That she had already spoken to him. Of course she had. Paige was excellent at private apologies. They left no witnesses and produced no change. Then I guess it's handled. It isn't handled if the two of you go into Christmas waiting to punish each other. I'm not waiting to punish her. She believes you are. And what do you believe? Mom didn't answer. I looked out my window at the brick wall of the building across the alley. Somebody had put a tiny plastic Santa on a fire escape. He had tipped onto his face overnight and now appeared to be trying to climb through the railing. Mom, I believe you're both my daughters. There were few phrases I hated more. It made biology sound like a moral achievement. I have to get ready for work. You'll call her? No. Nora. I said what I'm sorry for. If Paige wants to talk, she knows my number. Mom ended the call with an exhausted goodbye that implied I had kept her on the phone against her will. Paige did not call. She texted on Saturday. Do you still have the long, white tablecloths? I stared at the message while standing in line at the grocery store. Yes. Can I borrow them for Christmas? No hello, no mention of Thanksgiving, not even a strategically placed heart emoji. I typed, "Are we still deciding whether I'm allowed to come?" The typing dots appeared, vanished, and returned. Don't be dramatic. I said, maybe if you were going to act like that, you shouldn't come. Obviously, I'm hoping you won't act like that. I read it twice. Like what? You know, I did know. She meant like someone who could describe what she was doing while she was doing it. The cashier waved me forward. I can help you here. 1 second. A man behind me made the sigh of someone whose afternoon had been destroyed by 9 seconds. I typed, "The tablecloths are at my apartment. We can talk about Christmas after we talk about Thanksgiving." Paige answered before I reached the register. "I'm not doing one of your depositions." I put my phone away. Sunday, Dad's thermostat turned out to be fine. His problem was a window in the den that wasn't closing all the way because a stack of magazines had slipped behind the curtain and jammed the latch. "I was going to check that," he said. "You were going to recalibrate the thermostat. I like the word recalibrate." He stood beside me while I moved the magazines. None was newer than 11 months old. "Can I recycle these?" "I haven't read them. You have a magazine about the best cars of last year. The cars still exist." I restacked them on the coffee table. "Fine. Freeze with your automotive research." He handed me the cranberry bowl, washed and wrapped in a dish towel. Mom had gone to church and then lunch with Aunt Denise, a suspiciously convenient absence. Dad made grilled cheese sandwiches, burning one side of each and scraping them with a butter knife over the sink. We ate in the den. At some point, he muted the football game. "Your mother says you won't apologize to Paige. I apologize to you. You didn't need to." "Yes, I did. I should have asked before making that fight public." He rubbed a thumb over a brown spot on his plate. "I'm not losing my marbles, you know." "I know. I repeat stories because I like them. I know that, too. And sometimes because I forget who's heard them." There it was, set between us beside 2 burnt sandwiches. I waited, careful not to turn his honesty into an examination. He looked toward the television. "Getting older makes everybody watch you too closely. You lose your glasses. Suddenly, it's an incident. Meanwhile, your mother has kept the television remote in the refrigerator twice. 3 times. See? Nobody's putting her in a facility." I smiled. His expression softened. "Paige worries about it. About you? About everything changing? She doesn't handle that well." "Neither do I." "No," he said. "You just handle it." I looked down at my plate. He said it as praise. That was what made it so effective. Dad picked up the remote. "Your sister has some ideas for Christmas." I gathered. She wants to take charge this year. That was new. For the past 9 years, taking charge had meant Mom selecting a vague theme and me turning it into food, seating, serving dishes, gifts for unexpected guests, and enough ice for a medium-sized hotel. What kind of ideas? Fancy appetizers, little pastry things. Caleb's mother is apparently hard to impress. Has anyone tried not impressing her? He unmuted the game. Your mother won't hear of it. Monday evening, Paige finally called. She did not mention Dad or Thanksgiving. "I need Lillian's number," she said. "I was folding laundry on my bed." "Which Lillian?" "The catering woman, Lillian Porter." "How many catering women named Lillian do you know?" "Depends whether I'm being deposed." She went silent. I tucked 2 socks together. "What are you doing?" "I told Dad I'm handling Christmas. I want it to be nice." "It's usually nice. I mean, different." "Different how? More polished? Past appetizers? Better presentation, not everything in giant foil trays. The giant foil trays are how catered food arrives. You know what I mean?" I did. She wanted the part where our family looked effortless. She had never been interested in how much effort that required. Lillian books December dates early, I said. That's why I need her number. She may already be full. Can you just send it? I stopped folding. There was an easy path available. Send the number. Let Paige discover availability, pricing, menu deadlines, rental fees, and the mysterious Christmas Eve surcharge she would call outrageous, even after making 3 last-minute changes. There was also the path my hands knew by memory. Call Lillian myself, explain, negotiate, reserve the slot, then tell Paige I had taken care of it. I sent the number. A moment later, Paige said, "Can you send me last year's menu too?" I found the old email and forwarded it. And the number for the place you rented the extra chairs? I thought you were taking charge. I am. Taking charge means gathering information. I laughed despite myself. Fine. I'll send it. Thank you. The sincerity in her voice caught me off guard. Then she added, "See? We can do this without you turning everything into a fight." I closed my eyes. In the silence, she must have sensed she had stepped too far because her voice softened. "Look, Nora, I want you there." "I do. I just need Christmas to go well. So do I. Then help me make it easy." It sounded almost like an invitation. I didn't understand yet that Paige's version of easy had never required my presence, only my cooperation. The chair rental number became the serving platter dimensions, which became a photograph of Mom's dining room with Paige's proposed table arrangement drawn over it in red. By Wednesday, she had created a group text called Christmas Command Center. Paige, we need to keep everything organized this year. Dad, who is commander? Mom, Martin, it's just the name of the text. Dad, then why does it say command? Caleb, I nominate Martin. Dad, I accept. Paige changed the name to Christmas Planning. I watched assignments appear throughout the workday. Mom would handle decorations. Dad would pick up wine. Caleb would collect his parents from their hotel. Paige would coordinate the menu and overall experience. Beside my name, she put logistics. I stared at that word until my coworker leaned around the divider between our desks. "You look like someone just sent you a medical result," Simone said. "My sister assigned me logistics. That does sound terminal." Simone Alvarez had worked across from me for 6 years and had known my family for 5.5, which was how long I'd managed to keep from complaining about them. She was 41, blunt in a low-energy way, and wore enormous earrings that frequently became tangled in her headset. I showed her the list. She read it twice. What is overall experience? Whatever people compliment. And logistics? Whatever people don't notice unless it goes wrong. That's efficient. I helped design the system. Then I'm not sure this qualifies as betrayal. It might be a franchise dispute. My phone buzzed. Paige, Nora, can you bring the white tablecloth Sunday so we can see which size works? I typed, "We still haven't talked." Simone watched my face. "What did you write?" "The truth. Delete it." "Why?" "Because you're going to spend your lunch break trying to teach honesty through text messaging, and I want tacos." I deleted it. Instead, I wrote, "I'm not free Sunday." That was true. I had no plans, but for the first time in years, I wanted to find out whether an empty afternoon counted as availability if I didn't announce it. Paige reacted with a thumbs up. I knew that thumbs up. It had a knife in it. At lunch, Simone listened while I described Thanksgiving and the driveway. "Your mom heard Paige tell you not to come?" Every word. "And said nothing?" "She said Paige was cold." Well, that was clearly the emergency. "She'll fix it." "How?" "She'll talk to Paige." "Has she?" I unwrapped my taco. "Probably." Simone tilted her head. "Privately," I said. "Ah, a secret correction. The most powerful kind. My mother hates conflict." "No, your mother hates visible conflict. She sounds surprisingly comfortable with the regular kind." I wanted to argue. Instead, I squeezed lime onto my taco until juice ran over my thumb. Mom called that evening to ask if I could stop by Sunday. I told Paige I wasn't free. "I'm not asking for Paige. I need help getting the decorations down. Dad can do that. Your father should not be climbing the attic ladder. Then Paige can do it. She doesn't like the attic. Nobody liked the attic. It was an unfinished crawl space, filled with insulation, roofing nails, and cardboard boxes labeled in Mom's handwriting with descriptions like Christmas/miscellaneous/important. Every December, I crawled into it while my parents stood below and rejected boxes based on information they had not written down. Mom, I have plans. What plans? There was the family definition of plans, an obligation impressive enough to defeat their obligation. I'm spending Sunday at home. That isn't a plan. It is if I plan it. She went quiet. I could picture her at the kitchen counter, pinching the little crease between her eyebrows. She would not ask Paige again because Paige had already said no, and a no from Paige was treated as a completed negotiation. A no from me was an opening bid. I suppose I can ask your Aunt Denise, she said. Good. Her back has been bothering her. Then don't ask Aunt Denise to go into the attic. I'm running out of people, Nora. No, you're running out of people who already said yes. She inhaled sharply. I don't like who you've become since Thanksgiving. I almost asked whether she liked who Paige had become during Thanksgiving, but that would have started the same conversation with different furniture. I'll talk to you later. You used to enjoy helping. That one landed. The attic, the menu, the extra chairs, none of it had begun as punishment. When I was 29 and Mom had pneumonia in December, I took over Christmas because I wanted to. I remembered sitting beside her on the bed with a notebook while she whispered instructions as though planning a military evacuation. The dinner had gone beautifully. Dad bragged about me for months. Paige posted photographs and called me our Christmas miracle. After that, the miracle became annual. I did enjoy it, I said. Then why are you acting like we forced you? Because you stopped asking. Mom's voice softened. I'm asking now. It was the exact right answer, delivered 9 years too late. I went Sunday. I told myself I was going because Dad should not climb the attic ladder. This explanation held until I arrived and found him on the second rung, holding a flashlight in his teeth. Get down. He removed the flashlight. I'm supervising. You're ascending. I was checking its structural integrity. Mom stood in the hallway holding a mug. I told him not to. Dad stepped down. Your mother said the wreath box was nearest the opening. It was nearest the opening last year, then it should still be there. I looked up into the dark square above us. Have you met this family? Paige and Caleb arrived while I was halfway inside the attic. I heard her laugh downstairs, then the thump of bags being placed on the kitchen counter. Nora's here, she called. Mom said something too low for me to hear. A minute later, Paige appeared below the ladder. Oh, hi. I looked down at her from between a plastic tree stand and a box marked Angels, not the glass ones. Hi. I thought you had plans. My plans changed. She smiled faintly. That happens. Caleb stepped into the hall behind her carrying a tray with 4 coffees. I brought provisions. Send mine up. He passed the cup to Paige, who passed it to Dad, who passed it to me. By the time it reached the attic, coffee had leaked through the lid onto all 4 of us. Teamwork, Dad said. For the next hour, we decorated without discussing Thanksgiving. Paige looped garland along the banister. Caleb untangled lights. Mom rejected every arrangement and then recreated it 10 minutes later. Dad played old Christmas records and sang one line behind the singer. It was almost pleasant. That was the dangerous part of my family. We could settle into warmth so quickly that I would wonder whether the pain had been exaggerated by distance. Paige stood beside me at the dining table, measuring it with a retractable tape. The long cloth will fit if we add both leaves, she said. It'll fit, but it'll be short at the ends. Can you bring the others next time? I folded the tape closed. Have you talked to Dad? Her shoulders changed, barely. Yes. And? And what? Did you apologize? She glanced toward the kitchen, checking who could hear. He knows I was joking. That isn't what I asked. He doesn't care, Nora. You don't get to decide that for him. And you do? No. Then why are you still prosecuting this? Her voice had sharpened enough that Caleb looked over from the lights. Paige lowered it. I'm trying to plan a nice holiday. You keep dragging us back. You threatened to exclude me from that holiday. I was angry. So say you didn't mean it. She pressed her lips together. It should have been easy. 3 words. I didn't mean it. Instead, she said, I meant that I won't let you ruin Christmas if you're determined to make everyone miserable. Mom entered carrying a bowl of hooks. What are you two whispering about? Tablecloths, Paige said. Mom looked at me. You'll bring them. I could feel Caleb watching us. Dad was crouched by the stereo, sliding a record into its paper sleeve. I'll think about it, I said. Paige laughed under her breath. Caleb said, We can rent tablecloths, right? Everyone turned toward him. He held up both hands. I'm just asking. Why would we rent them when Nora owns perfectly good ones? Mom said. Caleb's gaze moved from Mom to Paige and then to me. No reason. Paige gathered the measuring tape. Renting is a waste of money. So are individual soufflés, I said. Her eyes flashed. Lillian can do them? I don't know. I've never asked her to deliver a collapsing dessert in December. Maybe I'll ask. Go ahead. You're in charge. That's what I've been trying to tell you. She walked into the kitchen. Caleb lingered. For what it's worth, I don't care about soufflés. Don't say that too loudly. You'll be assigned logistics. He smiled, but it disappeared quickly. Paige wants our families to get along. So do I. She thinks you don't like me. I blinked. I like you fine. That's what I said. Then why does she think that? He rubbed a strand of Christmas lights between his fingers. You'd have to ask her. It was the first time I understood that Caleb was not simply standing beside Paige's performance. He was trapped inside it too, holding the parts she handed him and trying not to drop any. At 6, Mom ordered pizza. Paige ate one slice while scrolling through linen rentals she insisted we did not need. Dad poured wine. Somebody put on a movie we had all seen enough times to talk over. I stayed. I wish I could say I stayed strategically, gathering evidence that nothing had changed. The truth was smaller. Mom tucked her feet beneath her on the couch and leaned against my shoulder. Dad fell asleep in his chair with his mouth open. Paige handed me the wine without asking, and for half an hour we laughed at Caleb's increasingly serious objections to the movie's plot. I loved them. That was not a defense of anything. It was simply the fact that made every defense harder. The next week passed in dozens of little requests. Mom wanted my opinion on candles. Paige needed the model number from the warming trays. Dad asked whether I could recommend a gift for Mom and then rejected every recommendation for being too obvious. I answered less quickly. Nobody seemed to notice the difference except me. Paige sent photographs of 3 table settings and asked which looked most expensive. I told her the second looked nicest. That's not what I asked, she replied. It was 13 days before Christmas when Mom called at work. Her voice was so careful that I stood and carried my phone into the empty conference room. What happened? Nothing happened. Then why are you talking like that? She breathed into the phone. Paige and I had a long conversation last night. I closed the conference room door. She's still very hurt by the way you've treated her, the way I've treated her since when? Thanksgiving. And afterward, the constant little digs, the questioning, making everything about whether she apologized correctly. Did she call to tell you that, or were you together? She came by, of course, a private meeting held in the house where I had spent Sunday hauling boxes from the attic. Mom continued, with Caleb's parents coming, she feels the tension would be too much. What does that mean? Nora, please don't make me phrase this in the harshest possible way. A strange calm moved through me. Phrase it accurately. She began to cry before she said it. Paige doesn't feel emotionally safe celebrating with you this year. And your father and I think perhaps it would be better if you skipped Christmas Eve, just this once. In the background, I heard Dad say, maybe everybody needs some breathing room. I held the phone tighter. Are you both actually letting one daughter ban the other from your house? No one is banning anyone. Am I invited? Silence. Mom. Am I invited to Christmas? She cried harder. For one humiliating second, every reflex in me rose to comfort her. I swallowed them all. "Okay," I said. "I understand your decision." Then I ended the call before she could ask me to make it easier for her. I stood in the conference room with the phone still pressed to my ear, listening to a dial tone that hadn't existed in years. My own reflection stared back at me from the dark television mounted on the wall. I looked completely normal, hair pulled back, gray sweater, employee badge hanging crooked from my neck, a woman who had taken a work call and would now return to her desk. My phone rang again. "Mom." I declined it. A text appeared almost immediately. "Please don't hang up on me. We need to talk this through." I typed, "You already did." Then I deleted it because she would answer the wording instead of the meaning. I wrote, "I understand that I am not invited. I'm at work." That one I sent. Simone was waiting when I returned to my desk. She looked at my face and took off her headset. "What? I'm not invited to Christmas." "What do you mean? My sister doesn't feel emotionally safe with me there." Simone blinked. "Did you chase her with a knife after lunch?" "No." "Before lunch?" My parents agree with her. For once, Simone had no quick answer. She rolled her chair closer. "Are you okay?" "Sure. Your left hand is shaking." I tucked it under the desk. "It's cold in that room. It's 74 degrees in this office. Then it's probably rage." "That I believe." My phone lit again. Dad this time. I turned it face down. Simone lowered her voice. "You can leave." "And do what? Cry in a more private building?" I stared at the spreadsheet on my monitor. Rows of numbers had blurred into blue and gray stripes. "If I leave, my mother will assume I'm devastated. You are devastated." "Yes, but she doesn't get confirmation." Simone nodded slowly. "All right. Petty workplace attendance. I support it." I lasted another 11 minutes before I went into the restroom and cried in a stall so quietly that the automatic lights switched off. Dad called that night. I let it ring twice before answering. "Hi. Your mother says you're not speaking to us." "I spoke to her." "You hung up. After she told me not to come to Christmas." He made the little throat-clearing sound he used whenever he wanted to introduce a distinction that would not survive daylight. "Nobody said don't come. She said it would be better if I skipped it. That's not forever." "I didn't ask if I was banned from all future holidays, Dad." He went quiet. I sat on the edge of my bed. The white tablecloths were stacked in a plastic storage bin in the closet across from me. I had washed and ironed them after the previous Christmas, then folded them with sheets of tissue paper so the creases wouldn't set too sharply. "Did you agree with Mom?" I asked. "I think everyone got backed into a corner." "Who backed you into it?" "Nora." "Was it Paige?" "She's upset." "So am I." "I know." "No, you know I'm capable." "That isn't the same thing." He breathed out slowly. "Maybe if you called her, she gave you a choice between inviting both of your daughters and inviting only her, and you picked. It wasn't put like that, but that's what you did. No one picked anybody. Then tell me what time dinner is." He didn't. I looked at the tablecloths again. Dad said, "Your mother's been looking forward to this for months." "So have I." "I know." He kept saying that. I wondered what he thought knowing was for. "Good night, Dad." "Nora, wait." The thermostat is making that clicking noise again. For a second, I thought he was joking. Then I realized he had actually called to discuss my exclusion and the thermostat in the same conversation. "Call the heating company. It only does it occasionally. Then record it. You're better at explaining these things." "I close windows, Dad. I don't speak furnace. Could you stop by one evening?" I almost said yes. The word was already shaped inside my mouth. Instead, I said, "No." Silence followed. Not angry silence. Astonished silence. "Okay," he said. It was the first no I had given my father in years that he didn't treat as a scheduling problem. Paige texted the next morning. "I heard you're angry. I read it while brushing my teeth." I answered, "I'm not discussing this over text." She replied, "I don't want to discuss it either. I just think space is best right now." I laughed so abruptly I sprayed toothpaste on the mirror. A second message arrived. Please bring Mom the tablecloths before Christmas. This isn't her fault. I rinsed my mouth and typed, no. Her typing dots appeared. Seriously? They're mine. You can rent some. This is exactly the spiteful behavior I was talking about. I took a picture of the storage bin, then decided that was childish and deleted it. I wrote, you excluded me from the dinner. You don't also get to assign me supplies for it. She did not answer until lunchtime. It's fabric, Nora. I put my phone away. The requests continued as if our family had decided exclusion was a change in seating rather than a change in relationship. Mom wanted to know where the silver candlesticks had been stored. Hall closet, top shelf. Dad needed the model of wine I had bought the previous year. Check the empty bottle in the basement rack. Paige asked whether 12 people could fit around the table with both leaves. Measure it. Mom called to say the warming trays were not heating evenly. Read the instructions. Each answer produced a new pause. I could feel them waiting for me to add, I'll come take care of it. I didn't. On Friday evening, Mom sent a photograph of the dining table. The centerpiece was too tall, the plates were crowded, and the rented tablecloth hung 6 inches above the floor. I studied the picture longer than I should have. What do you think? She wrote. I set down my phone. 10 minutes later, another message appeared. Never mind. That hurt worse than the first one. Simone invited me to her apartment for Christmas Eve. She did it casually while we were waiting for the printer to spit out a document it had apparently decided to compose itself. My brothers are coming, she said. There'll be too much food and at least one argument about whether a hot dog is a sandwich. You don't have to rescue me. I'm not rescuing you. I need another person on the correct side of the hot dog issue. Which side is correct? It's not a sandwich. Then I can't help you. She took the pages from the printer. Come anyway. Argue with Miguel. It'll thrill him. I told her I would think about it. The truth was I had pictured Christmas Eve at home. A frozen pizza, an old movie, my phone turned off. I wanted to prove I could be alone without becoming lonely. Those were not the same thing, but they had neighboring backyards. Saturday morning, Aunt Denise called. Your mother is a wreck. Good morning to you too. She says you're refusing to help with anything. She left out a detail. I know the detail. That surprised me. Denise continued. I told her it was a terrible idea. What did she say? That Paige wouldn't come if you did? Caleb's parents had already booked their hotel, and Christmas shouldn't become a battleground. So she surrendered before the battle. Your mother would hand over France if somebody raised their voice in Belgium. I smiled despite myself. Denise sighed. I'm not defending her. Then what are you doing? Checking on you. I'm fine. Your mother says that's the problem. You're always fine until suddenly you're cruel. Is refusing to provide tablecloths cruel now? I told her she could buy tablecloths. Thank you. She bought terrible ones. I saw. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Are you and Monica still going? I asked. To Christmas. We were never invited. I sat up straighter on the couch. What? Apparently, it's a small dinner for immediate family and Caleb's parents. But Mom told me there would be 12 people. Maybe she's counting the soufflés. Who are the other guests? No idea. One of the divorced neighbors heard it was full. The dining table in Mom's photograph had 12 place settings. Paige had not just removed me to create an intimate evening. She was curating the room. Denise said, For what it's worth, I think your sister is terrified. Of what? That somebody will look too closely at her life and see an unfinished surface. That's very poetic. I took a gummy 20 minutes ago. I laughed. She added, Being frightened doesn't make her harmless. After we hung up, I opened Simone's message and told her I would come. Mom called Sunday night. Her voice was tentative. I heard you made other plans for Christmas. News traveled faster in my family than apologies. I did. With Simone? Yes. I don't know why you'd rather spend Christmas with strangers. I wasn't given the option of spending it with you. They aren't strangers, I added. I know her brothers. Mom sniffed. Your father thought you might come by Christmas afternoon. He hasn't asked. I'm asking. Christmas afternoon is after Christmas Eve. I'm aware of how dates work, Nora. Are you inviting me to see the dishes after Paige's safe Christmas? That's not fair. I'm not coming. She went silent, then said, Fine, in a voice so wounded that I nearly apologized. Instead, I asked, Did Paige pay for the catering? Mom hesitated. I assume so. Why are you assuming? She said it was handled. I thought of Lillian's booking deadline, but Paige had asked for the number weeks ago. If Lillian was unavailable, Mom would already have called me in a panic. Then I'm sure it's handled, I said. 4 days before Christmas, I stopped at the hardware store after work to buy Dad a furnace filter. It was ridiculous. I knew it was ridiculous. He had not asked again, and I had no intention of installing it. I told myself I would leave it on their porch on Christmas afternoon, a practical gift, proof that I could maintain a boundary without becoming someone who let her father breathe dust. I was comparing 2 filters when Lillian called. By the time she read the last 4 digits of my card, I had forgotten what aisle I was in. I'm not even going to Christmas dinner, I told her. What do you mean you're not going? My sister told my parents I wasn't allowed to come. They agreed. The clatter in Lillian's kitchen stopped behind her voice. Then why did Paige say you were handling the boring part like always? I put the expensive filter back on the shelf. She said that? Not those exact words. She said you always manage payment and final details. She used your saved profile to reserve the date. Did she give you my card number? No. It was already secured in the system from last year. She had the order number from the email you forwarded. The email. My helpful little contribution to Christmas planning. Lillian, I did not authorize any of this. Oh, honey. How much is the balance? She told me. I laughed once because it was nearly twice what I had spent the previous year. Do not charge my card. I won't. And remove it from the account. I can do that right now. Keys clicked. What happens to the order? I asked. That depends. If somebody provides another card by noon tomorrow, it stays. Otherwise, I release the delivery slot and refund the deposit to the card that paid it. What card paid the deposit? Keys clicked again. Yours? I closed my eyes. The deposit had been carried over as a credit after Lillian canceled a small anniversary order for my parents during a winter storm. I had forgotten it existed. Paige had not. Transfer the order to her name, I said. Call her for payment. You're sure? I'm not canceling their dinner, I'm just not buying it. All right. And Lillian? Yes. Don't let my mother pay. She was quiet. I can't police who gives Paige a card, she said gently. I know. Are you okay? Across the aisle, the man who had been shaking filters had moved on to extension cords. Christmas music played over the store speakers, cheerful and tinny. No, I said, but take my name off the order anyway. Lillian said she would call Paige immediately. I thanked her, hung up, and stood in the aisle holding the cheaper furnace filter. Buying it now felt like surrender. Leaving it felt like I was punishing my father's lungs for his personality. I bought it. Paige called before I reached my car. I watched her name flash across the screen, then put the filter in the trunk and answered. What did you do? No hello, no confusion. We had moved beyond pretending. I removed my card from an order I didn't place. You canceled Christmas dinner. No. Lillian is holding the order until noon tomorrow. You need to give her a card. I have been planning this dinner for weeks. Then payment probably came up. You gave me the order number. I forwarded last year's menu. I did not give you permission to use my account. It's the family account. It has my name and my credit card on it. Mom said you had a credit. Mom doesn't manage my catering credits. A car backed out beside me. I stepped away from the exhaust and walked toward the cart return. Paige lowered her voice. Do you have any idea how humiliating that call was? For you? Yes, for me. Lillian talked to me like I was trying to steal from you. You were trying to charge my card. I was not. Mom always settles with you. Mom didn't even know whether the catering was paid. She knew it was handled. By me. That is how we've done it every year. Every year I was invited. A cart rolled loose across the parking lot and bumped softly into the metal rail. I caught it with one hand. Paige said, "This is exactly why I needed space from you. Because I noticed? Because you wait until the most damaging moment to make some grand point. I found out 10 minutes ago. You could have called me. You could have called me before putting my name on a $2,000 dinner I'm not allowed to attend. It isn't $2,000. I told her the balance. Silence. You added tenderloin, crab, and individual soufflés, I said. What did you think it cost? That includes the deposit. My deposit. It was a family event. It was Mom and Dad's anniversary dinner, which you were all going to eat. Before the snowstorm canceled it. Exactly, so nobody ate it. I leaned my forehead against the cold metal frame of the cart return. Even by Paige's standards, this argument was ambitious. Call Lillian, I said. Give her your payment information. Nothing has been canceled, and if I can't move that much money around by noon, then order something else. 4 days before Christmas? There's a grocery store behind me. I can see 7 kinds of ham from here. She exhaled hard. Caleb's parents are expecting a catered dinner. Did they ask for one? That's not the point. It feels surprisingly close to the point. Her voice went flat. You're enjoying this. I wasn't. I wanted to be. A clean, sharp satisfaction would have been easier than the sick heaviness sitting under my ribs. I'm standing in a hardware store parking lot arguing about whether you have a right to buy crab with my credit card. No part of this is enjoyable. I didn't ban you. You said you wouldn't come if I did. Mom and Dad chose you. I said I didn't feel comfortable. You knew what would happen. You're acting like I forced them. You gave them an ultimatum because you knew I would be the easier daughter to hurt. Her breath caught. For a moment, I thought something had reached her. Then she said, "Maybe they agreed with me." The sentence was quiet, precise. Paige had always known where the soft parts were. She just preferred to call it honesty when she pressed them. "Pay for your dinner," I said, and ended the call. Mom called before I got home. I let it ring. She called again while I was carrying the filter upstairs. Then Dad. Then Mom. I placed the filter on my kitchen table and listened to her voicemail. "Nora, I need you to call me. Paige is extremely upset, and I don't understand what's happening with the food. She says you canceled it, but I told her you wouldn't do something that spiteful. Please call before this gets more confused. I played it twice, not because I enjoyed it. Because I wanted to make sure she had defended me and blamed me in the same breath. She answered on the first ring. Thank God. What happened? I did not cancel the order. Paige said Lillian won't deliver. Lillian will deliver if Paige pays by noon tomorrow, but the catering was already paid for. Why did you think that? You always pay the deposit. I paid a deposit for your anniversary dinner that was canceled. Yes, and Lillian kept it as a credit. How did Paige know that? I may have mentioned it. Before or after you told me not to come. Mom hesitated. Nora, can we focus on solving this? That answers my question. I didn't know she put the dinner under your name. I assumed she was applying the credit. A credit attached to my account. It was for a dinner celebrating your father and me, which I paid for. We offered to reimburse you. You offered half. I said it was your gift, so it was ours. The dinner was your gift, not an open line of credit for Paige. Mom went silent long enough for me to hear the faint hum of her kitchen refrigerator. Then she said, "This is getting very technical." No, technical was removing my card. This is simple. Could you please just let the order go through? Your father and I will pay you back. No. The word landed as heavily as it had with Dad. Why not? Because I'm not paying first and hoping you reimburse me later. We have always reimbursed you. That was almost true, which made it more irritating. My parents reimbursed me when they remembered, when I reminded them, and when the reminder did not arrive during a month in which Paige had an emergency. The shortage was never large enough to justify a family fight, just frequent enough to become a private tax. You can give Paige your card now, I said. I can't put that amount on my card this week, then choose a cheaper dinner. What are we supposed to serve Caleb's parents? Food. You know what I mean? I really don't. Her voice sharpened. You helped Paige plan this. I gave her a phone number and last year's menu. You knew she was relying on you. She banned me, Mom. Nobody banned. Stop saying that. You told me not to come. I asked you to give your sister space. At Christmas dinner. Just Christmas Eve. Right. A minor evening nobody associates with family. Mom began to cry. My hand tightened around the phone, but I let the silence stay where she had put it. Finally, she said, I can't believe you would do this to your father. That was so beautifully aimed, I almost admired it. What exactly am I doing to Dad? He was looking forward to the meal. He was looking forward to seeing me, too. Of course he was. But food won. That is not fair. Put him on. He's in the den. Put him on, Mom. I heard the phone move, then muffled voices. A moment later, Dad said, Hi, sweetheart. The endearment nearly broke me. Did you know the catering order was under my name? No. Did you think I was paying for it? I assumed you and your mother had arranged something. Why would you assume that? Because you usually handle the catering. Even though I'm not invited? Another silence. Dad had so many kinds of silence. This one was recognition. I didn't think about it that way, he said. None of you did. Your mother says you can still come by Christmas afternoon. That isn't the same thing. I know. There it was again. I sat at my kitchen table and touched the corner of the furnace filter. Dad, why should the woman who isn't welcome be responsible for feeding everyone who agreed she should stay away? He breathed in slowly. You shouldn't, he said. In the background, Mom said something sharp. Dad covered the phone, but not well enough. No, Elaine, she's right about that. It was the first time I had heard him contradict her on my behalf since the Thanksgiving dinner, and instead of relief, I felt furious. Too late was not the same as never, but it lived on the same street. Dad returned to the call. Can the order be reduced? That's a question for Paige and Lillian. We'll figure something out. You will. He paused. Thank you for the filter. I looked toward the trunk-shaped absence in my hallway, where the filter had never left my hand until I came inside. How did you know? Your mother can see your credit card purchases on the old shared banking alert. I closed my eyes. Years earlier, I had added Mom as an emergency contact after fraudulent charges appeared during a trip. The bank still sent her merchant alerts over a set amount because neither of us had bothered to remove them. Please take yourself off that. I'll ask your mother. No, Dad. I'll do it. All right. He sounded embarrassed. That made two of us. After we hung up, I opened my banking app and removed the alert access. It took 40 seconds. 9 years of family logistics had left dozens of small doors unlocked. Catering profiles, shared alerts, spare keys, saved addresses, standing expectations. None of it had seemed dangerous because nobody was stealing anything. They were simply entering whenever they needed me. At 9:30, Caleb called. I almost didn't answer. Then I remembered the way he had stood in the hallway with the Christmas lights between his fingers. Hi, Caleb. Hey. Sorry to call late. It's fine. He sounded as if he were in his car. There was a hollow quiet around his voice and the soft clicking of a turn signal. I'm trying to understand what happened with the caterer. Ask Paige. I did. And? She said you offered to manage payment, then backed out because of your argument. I did not offer. He was silent. I added. She put the order under my name and attached it to my saved card. I found out because Lillian called me about Paige's changes. The turn signal kept clicking. Were you ever planning to come to dinner? He asked. Yes. I mean, after Thanksgiving. I was still planning to come until my mother told me Paige wouldn't attend if I was there. The clicking stopped. Paige told me you chose not to come. My anger changed shape. Did she tell you why? She said you wanted to spend it with friends because you were tired of doing everything for your family. That arrangement came afterward. I see. He did not sound shocked. He sounded tired. Caleb, is Paige with you? No. Does she know you called? No. I waited, he said. She told my parents everything was paid. That's between you and her. I know. Again, the sentence carried more weight than it should have. Before he hung up, he said, "For what it's worth, I'm sorry you're not coming." I sat alone at my kitchen table, staring at the furnace filter I had bought for people who had set a table without me. "So am I said. Caleb ended the call, but I kept the phone to my ear until the screen went dark. Paige had told him I chose not to come. The lie was so unnecessary. She already had what she wanted. My parents had supported her. The chairs had been arranged. The terrible tablecloth had been rented. Yet she still needed Caleb to believe I had walked away voluntarily. At 7:15 the next morning, someone pounded on my apartment door. I opened it wearing pajama pants and one sock. Paige stood in the hallway in her camel coat, her hair pulled into a low ponytail. Without the careful knot and makeup, she looked younger and more severe. "Did you call Caleb?" "Good morning." "Did you?" "He called me." She pushed past me into the apartment. I closed the door. "Come in. You told him I banned you. I told him what happened. That is not what happened. You said you wouldn't come if I was there. I said I needed to feel comfortable in my parents' home. Our parents' home. You don't even like going there." The sentence stopped me. "What, you complain every time? You're always fixing something or helping mom or getting mad because dad won't throw away a magazine. You act miserable. And that means I don't want to be with them? It means you don't get to pretend this is some sacred experience I stole from you." She walked into my kitchen and saw the furnace filter on the table. Her mouth twisted. "Unbelievable. What is? You're still buying dad things. He needs a filter, and you need everyone to know you're the good one. No one knows it's here." "I know, because you came into my apartment at 7 in the morning." She looked away. I started the coffee maker. Paige stayed near the table, arms crossed tightly under her coat. The radiator clicked behind her. "Why did Caleb call you?" she asked. "He wanted to understand the catering problem. He had no right. He's marrying you. That doesn't give him permission to discuss our family with you behind my back." I turned. "You told him I volunteered to handle payment. I told him you always handle it. That isn't the same thing. It was true until you decided to punish me." I took down a second mug, then put it back. "What do you want, Paige? I want you to call Lillian and tell her there was a misunderstanding." "There wasn't." "Tell her to run your card. Mom and Dad will reimburse you. They can reimburse you." "I can't put that much on my card right now." Then reduce the order. She said changes were already closed. She'll let you remove items. Caterers are generally comfortable charging less food if you ask before they cook it. Not everything can be removed. You could start with the soufflés. Her jaw tightened. Or the crab. Caleb's mother loves crab. Caleb's mother doesn't know you ordered crab. Paige stared at me. I knew I was right. The coffee began dripping between us. "Does Caleb know you can't pay?" I asked. "I can pay. You just said you couldn't. I can't move the entire amount today. You've had weeks." "I thought Mom was covering it." "Mom thought I was covering it. That's between you and Mom." "No, apparently it's between you and my credit card." She took a step closer. "You have the room. You don't know what room I have. Please. You don't spend money. Your car is 8 years old. You take lunch to work in the same little glass containers. You act like buying a sweater is a merger." I stared at her. There was something uniquely violating about hearing someone inventory your restraint as evidence they were entitled to it. "My car is paid off and I like those containers. You know what I mean?" "Yes. You think because I didn't spend my money, you did. I said Mom and Dad will pay you back." And I said no. Her face flushed. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The coffee maker hissed and released a final, exhausted burst of steam. Then Paige said, "Caleb's parents already think my family is strange." "Why?" His mother asks questions. "About what?" "Everything. Where we went to school. What Mom did before she married Dad. Why Aunt Denise isn't coming. Why you aren't coming. And what did you tell her? That you had other plans. So Caleb didn't invent that version. I wasn't going to tell his parents my sister was refusing to attend because of some argument." I laughed, though nothing was funny. You removed me, then edited the story so I remove myself. You always make words sound so sinister. Words are having a hard month. Her eyes shone. She blinked quickly and looked toward the window. I just wanted one dinner where everything looked normal. The honesty in it softened something before I could stop it. Paige. No, don't. She rubbed beneath one eye. Don't use that voice. What voice? The one you use when you think you finally understand me. I leaned back against the counter. She was frightened. Aunt Denise had been right. Paige had built Christmas into a presentation of our family, and every crack in it felt like a crack in her future. I could understand that fear. I could even feel sorry for her. Neither feeling put Crab on my credit card. Call Lillian, I said. Remove everything you can't afford. Serve ham, potatoes, and a dessert from a bakery. People will survive. It'll look cheap. It will look like dinner. You don't get it. No, I do. You're trying to impress people who probably don't care as much as you think they do. You haven't met them. Neither has Mom, apparently, but she helped ban me for them. Paige grabbed her purse from the table. You make everything ugly. No, I say the ugly part out loud. She headed for the door. You have until noon, I called after her. She turned. Are you really going to let the whole order disappear over this? It isn't disappearing. You have 4 hours to pay for it. She opened the door. I hope being right keeps you warm on Christmas. I have a radiator. She slammed the door hard enough to rattle the furnace filter. At 11:43, Lillian called. I had spent the morning looking at the clock while pretending I wasn't. She hasn't given me a card, Lillian said. That's between you and her. I offered to reduce it to the original menu. No appetizers, no tenderloin upgrade, sheet cake instead of soufflés. And she said she'd call back. I closed my office door. How much would the reduced balance be? Lillian told me. It was still substantial, but it was within the range Paige could probably manage if she shifted plans and accepted discomfort. She has 17 minutes, I said. I have another family on the wait list. Their oven flooded the kitchen yesterday. Ovens don't flood. A pipe burst above it. That's less whimsical. Lillian gave a tired laugh. I can hold it until 12:15. No, you don't want me to? I don't want this turning into another favor attached to my name. You gave her a deadline, all right? My chest tightened anyway. At 11:58, Mom texted, Please call Lillian. Paige is trying to move money around. I did not answer. At noon, my phone stayed silent. At 12:04, I opened the catering website, though there was nothing for me to see. At 12:07, I checked my banking app. At 12:10, I stood and walked to the break room. Simone was stirring powdered creamer into coffee. You look haunted, she said. The deadline passed. And did the earth split open? Not yet. Give it time. I took a paper cup and filled it with water. Simone watched me drink. Did you pay? No. Did your parents? No. Did your sister? I don't know. Yes, you do. I crushed the rim of the cup between 2 fingers. She didn't. Simone nodded once, not congratulating me, just acknowledging that I had reached the other side of a decision and was still alive. At 12:16, Lillian sent a message. I released the slot. Your deposit refund has been initiated. I'm sorry, Nora. I read it, locked my phone, then unlocked it and read it again. The relief was not clean. Beneath it was grief, and beneath the grief was an old, frantic impulse, insisting there must still be time to fix everything. Call Lillian. Offer half. Ask her to hold the sides. Buy the groceries yourself. Deliver them anonymously. Let Mom think Paige handled it. I knew every route back into my assigned place. I took the elevator down to the lobby and stepped outside into the cold until the impulse passed. Paige did not call me. Mom did. The caterer gave away our food. I stood near the building entrance while people moved around me with shopping bags and insulated coffee cups. The caterer released an unpaid order. We were trying to pay. The deadline was noon. It was noon 15. Lillian extended it 15 minutes? Mom hesitated. Paige said she was waiting for a transfer. From whom? That's private. Then so is my credit card. This is not a victory, Nora. I know. We now have 10 people coming and no dinner. Yesterday there were 12. 2 of the guests had a change of plans. Who? Why does that matter? Because you keep using numbers to make this my emergency. Mom's breath shook. I don't recognize you. I closed my eyes. You recognize me, I said. You just don't recognize what happens when I don't fix it. She ended the call. When I returned upstairs, Christmas planning had 37 unread messages. Paige had renamed it Christmas Emergency. Mom, we need a complete menu by tonight. Dad, I can cook a turkey. Paige, there are no fresh turkeys left. Dad, turkeys are frozen on purpose. Mom, Martin, please. Caleb, I can call restaurants. Paige, they're all booked. Dad, Chinese. Mom, for Christmas Eve. Dad, Chinese people eat on Christmas Eve. Paige, that is not the point. Then my name appeared. Mom, Nora, do you still have the large roasting pan? I looked at the message until the screen dimmed. The pan was in my lower kitchen cabinet, scrubbed and ready. The white tablecloths were in my closet. The warming racks were stacked in my storage unit. I could have loaded my car in 20 minutes and restored half their evening without being invited inside. I left the group. Leaving the group did not stop the messages. It only forced people to send them individually. Mom wrote, that was unnecessary. Paige wrote nothing. Dad sent, I'm guessing that means no on the roasting pan? I stared at his message, then laughed despite myself. You can borrow it, I replied. Ask me directly. A minute later, he wrote, may I please borrow your roasting pan? Yes. Pick it up tomorrow after 6. Thank you. May I also borrow the rack that goes inside it? They're a set, Dad. I didn't want to lend it. I wanted their improvised turkey to be too large for every pan in the house. I wanted Dad to stand in the kitchen holding a frozen bird over a disposable aluminum tray, while Mom finally understood that objects did not appear because Christmas needed them. But Dad had asked. The difference was embarrassingly important to me. He arrived the following evening at 6:12 carrying my cranberry bowl. You already gave that back. I know. Your mother used it Sunday. For what? Cranberry sauce. On Sunday? She's testing recipes. She knows how to make cranberry sauce. Apparently, confidence is seasonal. I let him in. Dad spotted the furnace filter on the kitchen table and stopped. You did buy one. Mom's bank alert betrayed me. He ran his thumb along the cardboard edge. How much do I owe you? Nothing. Nora, it's a Christmas gift. His face softened. Thank you. You have to install it yourself. The softness became concern. Is that safe? You slide the old one out and put this one in. There's an arrow. The arrow points toward the furnace. What if the old one is pointing the wrong way? Then point this one the right way. He nodded solemnly, as though I had entrusted him with aviation. I pulled the roasting pan from the cabinet. It was wide and heavy, stainless steel with high handles. Dad took one side. Your mother found a turkey. Fresh? Frozen. Christmas Eve is in 2 days. She says it's thawing. Where? The garage. I released my handle. Tell me it isn't sitting on the concrete floor. It's in a cooler. With ice? I didn't conduct an inspection. Dad, if the garage is above 40 degrees, he smiled. What? You can't help it. I almost snapped at him. Then I saw that he wasn't mocking me. He looked relieved. For 30 seconds, I had become the familiar version of myself, worried about thawing rates and food safety. I can help it, I said. Do not serve garage turkey. His smile faded. We carried the pan into the hallway. He rested it against his leg while I found a shopping bag large enough for the filter. Paige says, you're trying to turn Caleb against her. I answered questions he asked. He called you? Yes. Dad frowned. She didn't mention that. I'm shocked. Nora. What? You don't have to enjoy every piece of bad news about your sister. I'm not enjoying it. You get that look. What look? The one you had when you caught your mother adding water to an empty shampoo bottle after she insisted she'd bought more. That was vindication. This looks similar. I handed him the bag. Paige lied to Caleb about why I wasn't coming and who agreed to pay. If telling him the truth turns him against her, I'm not the active ingredient. Dad adjusted his grip on the pan. She's been crying. So has Mom. Am I supposed to admire their hydration? He tried not to smile. I tried not to notice. Then he said, "You could still come. Did Paige change her mind? I don't know. Did Mom invite me? She wants everyone to stop fighting. That isn't an invitation." No. There were moments when Dad's honesty felt like courage. Other moments it was simply the most graceful way to remain passive. He shifted the pan again. Christmas Day then. Just the three of us. Paige won't be there? She and Caleb usually go to his parents' hotel for brunch, so I can have the second shift. That's not how I meant it. I made plans. With Simone. Yes. Dad nodded, looking down at the roasting pan. Your mother's having a hard time with that. She'll survive. I know. He looked up. I'm not sure the rest of us will survive the turkey. Keep it below 40 degrees while it thaws. There she is. I closed the door before he could see me smile. On Christmas Eve morning, Mom sent a photograph of the turkey. It was still visibly frozen. A layer of white ice coated the inside of the cavity, and the plastic-wrapped neck appeared fused to one side. Can we cook it like this? She asked. I considered not answering. No, do not leave it on the counter all day either. Buy something else. She replied, Your father says it will be fine. Dad also thinks furnace filters require certification. What do you suggest? For one dangerous second, my mind opened the usual file. Ham, prepared potatoes, green beans, rolls. Grocery stores carried holiday meals for people who forgot to thaw turkeys. If Mom called immediately, she might still find one. I typed, Ask the grocery store what prepared food is available. Can you call? I'm in the middle of cleaning. No. She did not answer. At 11, Caleb texted, Sorry to bother you. Is there anything Martin can't eat besides too much salt? I told him Dad avoided grapefruit because of one of his medications and that horseradish sauce needed to stay separate, though he would complain and eat it. Thank you, Caleb wrote. A few minutes later, he added, Paige doesn't know I asked. I almost wrote, You should not have to hide basic questions from the person you plan to marry. I deleted it. Whatever was happening between them belonged to them. I packed the bakery pie I had bought for Simone's dinner and tried on 3 sweaters before choosing the first. My apartment felt unusually still. No trays warming in the kitchen, no serving spoons lined up on towels, no phone timer reminding me when to leave for Mom's house. At 3:30, I sat on my couch with my coat on and realized I was waiting for an emergency. Nothing happened. At 4, I drove to Simone's. Her apartment occupied the second floor of a narrow brick building and smelled like roasted garlic all the way from the stairs. She opened the door wearing red velvet pants and a sweatshirt that said, Feliz Navidad in cracked gold letters. You brought one thing, she said, looking at the pie. You asked for one thing. I'm proud of you. I also have serving utensils in my purse. Give them to me. No. She took my coat instead. Her older brother Miguel was in the kitchen stirring a pot of beans. Her younger brother Luis was building a tower of beer cans in the refrigerator because he insisted it created more room. Both were in their 30s. Neither appeared interested in whether I was useful. Nora, Miguel said. Hot dog. Sandwich or not? I haven't put my purse down. It's Christmas. There's no time. Technically a sandwich. Simone pointed at the door. Get out. Luis leaned around the refrigerator. Finally, an educated guest. Dinner was loud, imperfect, and late. Miguel burned the first batch of plantains while arguing that a bun connected on one side disqualified the hot dog. Simone's rice stuck to the bottom of the pot. Luis opened a bottle of wine with a screw and a pair of pliers after no one could find the corkscrew. Every time I stood to help, someone told me to sit down. The third time, Miguel looked offended. Do you hate my cooking? No. Then stop hovering over it like a hospital chaplain. I'm not hovering. You're holding an oven mitt. I looked down. I did not remember picking it up. Simone took it from me and guided me back to my chair. You are off duty. I don't know what to do off duty. Drink. That seems medically irresponsible. Fine. Judge us silently. I can do that. We ate at a table too small for the dishes. Elbows bumped. Sauce spilled. Nobody had matching wine glasses. When Simone handed me a plate, she did not tell me which chair I had earned. My phone buzzed inside my purse. I left it there. After dinner, Luis cut the pie into 7 pieces for 4 people, claiming prime numbers improved dessert. Miguel put music on. Simone kicked off her shoes and tucked her feet under my leg. It reminded me of Mom leaning against my shoulder while we decorated. The memory arrived without permission and sat beside me. You can check, Simone said quietly. I'm fine. I didn't say you weren't. I took out my phone. There were 9 messages. Mom had sent a picture of grocery store trays arranged on the dining table, sliced ham, mashed potatoes with a skin already forming on top, green beans in a black plastic container, rolls still in the package. The centerpiece hid part of the meal as if ashamed on its behalf. Her caption said, "We managed." Dad sent a separate photograph of himself holding the frozen turkey like a trophy. Tomorrow, he wrote. Caleb had asked at 5:30 whether the warming trays needed water beneath the inserts. 7 minutes later, he had written, "Never mind, figured it out." Paige had sent one message. "I hope you're having the Christmas you wanted." I looked at the crowded little table in front of me, at the burned plantains and bent cork, and Simone's hand resting near mine. I didn't answer. Later, after Miguel and Luis had left and Simone had packed leftovers into mismatched containers, she stood with me at the door. "You can stay. I'm okay to drive. I don't mean because of the wine." I hugged her. "Thank you," I said. "For dinner?" "For not making me explain every 5 minutes. That sounds exhausting." It is. The roads were nearly empty. Christmas lights blurred red and white in the edges of my windshield. As I drove, I imagined my parents' table after the guests had gone, serving spoons abandoned in cold potatoes, rented linens spotted with gravy, Mom clearing plates too loudly, Dad making weak jokes, Paige watching Caleb's face. I did not want them miserable. I wanted them to notice I had been missing. When I turned onto my street, Dad's car was parked outside my building. He stood beneath the entrance light with his brown cardigan visible under an unbuttoned coat. His hands were empty. The digital clock on my dashboard said 11:47. He saw my car and straightened. For once, my father had come to me without bringing anything that needed fixing. I parked behind him and got out. Dad shoved his hands into his coat pockets. "Merry Christmas. It's not Christmas for 13 minutes. I'm getting old. I like to be early. How long have you been standing here?" "Not long." His nose was bright red. Dad had never admitted to being cold in his life because he believed temperature was mostly attitude. "You're freezing. It's brisk. Come upstairs." He followed me into the building without asking whether I'd had a nice evening. I was grateful. If he had tried to make conversation in the stairwell, I might have left him between floors. Inside my apartment, he stood by the door while I hung up my coat. "I like what you've done with the place," he said. "You were here 2 days ago. I liked it then, too." "Coffee? At midnight?" "You're the one making social calls. Water's fine." I filled a glass. He sat at my kitchen table, looked at the empty spot where the furnace filter had been, and placed both palms flat on the wood. I stayed standing. "How was dinner?" I asked. "The ham was good. The potatoes looked tired. They'd had a long day." I waited. Dad drank some water. Caleb's parents were gracious. Was his mother impressed? "I don't know." She asked why Denise and Monica weren't there. What did Mom say? That we were keeping it small. 10 people is small? 8. 2 canceled. The mysterious 2. He frowned. What mysterious 2? Never mind. One of the canceled guests had probably been invented to make my mother's crisis larger. I should have felt vindicated. Mostly, I felt exhausted. Dad turned the glass between his hands. Paige and Caleb fought before dinner. About the catering? About several things, from what I heard. What did you hear? Enough. It was the same answer he had given after Thanksgiving. Then say it. He looked up. I pulled out the chair across from him and sat. Dad sighed. He asked why she told his family the caterer canceled because of a billing mistake. She said that was easier than explaining you had pulled the payment. He said you never agreed to make the payment. And she asked how he knew that. I pictured Paige standing in Mom's kitchen, surrounded by black plastic trays and the polished dinner she had failed to manufacture. Did he tell her he called me? Yes. How did that go? Not well. I leaned back. Did she blame me? Some. Some? All right. Yes. At least she's consistent. Dad rubbed his palms over his thighs. Caleb told her she was blaming you for a dinner you weren't allowed to attend. I stared at him. Where were you? In the den. Of course you were. I was getting the wine. Did you say anything? By the time I came back, they stopped talking. You could have restarted it. I could have. His agreement left me nowhere to push. The refrigerator clicked off and the apartment became very quiet. Dad said, Paige cried through most of dinner. Mom must have loved that. Nora. What? Mom understands tears. They give her a task. She didn't have an easy night either. I'm sure she didn't. And you did? The question was gentle, which made it harder to dismiss. Yes, I said. He nodded. I had a very nice dinner. Nobody assigned me anything. Nobody asked me to fix a warming tray. I brought one pie and Simone took an oven mitt away from me because I kept trying to help. Dad smiled faintly. Sounds like a good friend. She is. I'm glad. That hurt too. I wanted him jealous of my good evening. I wanted him to understand that another table had treated me better and feel threatened by it. He only looked relieved that I had not been alone. Why are you here? I asked. His smile disappeared. Because I should have come earlier. Earlier tonight? Earlier in general. He looked toward the window. The little plastic Santa on the opposite fire escape had been righted. Snow dusted his red hat. When your mother said Paige wouldn't come if you did, I thought it was ridiculous, Dad said. I told her Paige would calm down. Did you tell Paige? No. Why? Because your mother asked me not to make it worse. And you listened. Yes. He picked up the water glass but did not drink. I knew you would be hurt, he said. I also knew you would eventually answer the phone. Paige can go months without speaking to us when she thinks we've taken the wrong side. She did that once. Twice. When was the second time? The year she moved in with Trevor? Trevor had been Paige's boyfriend before Caleb. I remembered a quiet summer when Mom claimed Paige was busy and Dad drove across town every Sunday to leave groceries outside her apartment. What side did you take? We said moving in after 4 months was too fast. It was too fast. That didn't matter. His mouth tightened. Your sister knows how to make absence feel like punishment, he said. You make absence feel temporary. I folded my hands in my lap. So you chose the daughter who scared you. He looked at me. Yes. The word landed harder than an excuse would have. You didn't choose the daughter who was right, I said. You chose the one who would punish you longer. Yes. And you let Mom call that keeping the peace. Yes. My eyes burned. Dad's face blurred, then sharpened when I blinked. You knew I would forgive you, I said. I hoped. No. You counted on it. He lowered his head. Being easier to hurt doesn't mean I hurt less. I know that now. You knew it before. He swallowed. Yes, he said. I knew it before. That was the apology, more than the words that followed. He did not pretend ignorance. He did not claim the family had misunderstood itself for 38 years. He admitted that my pain had been visible and convenient. I'm sorry, he said. I was a coward. I wiped beneath one eye with the side of my hand. You're still wearing your coat. I wasn't sure I'd be allowed to stay. You were allowed to come into the building. I didn't want to presume. I laughed once. wetly. Now you discover consent. Timing has never been my gift. No, your gift is turkey stories. He smiled, then his eyes filled, which I had not expected. Dad looked down quickly and unbuttoned his coat. Beneath it, the brown cardigan's worn elbow had finally split. A small triangle of blue shirt showed through. "You need a new sweater," I said. "I like this one. You like everything that asks nothing new of you." He looked at the tear. That may be true. We sat without speaking. At midnight, church bells rang somewhere beyond the buildings, not close enough to sound grand, just a faint series of chimes through the glass. "Merry Christmas," Dad said. "Merry Christmas." He did not ask me to come over the next day. That might have been the first useful thing he did. Instead, he asked, "May I call you tomorrow?" "Yes. And after tomorrow? We'll see." He nodded. Before he left, he carried his water glass to the sink and washed it. He used too much soap and left water all over the counter, but I did not fix it while he was watching. At the door, he paused. "Your mother thinks we should give you time." "Does she?" "She also thinks you should call her." "Those ideas conflict." "I mentioned that." I leaned against the doorframe. "What did she say?" "That I was being smug." "Were you?" "A little." I smiled despite myself. Dad's face became serious again. "She loves you." "I know." It was not the answer he wanted, but it was true. My mother loved me. She also used my love as padding between herself and difficult choices. Both things could exist. That was what made the damage so ordinary. Dad left at 12:34. I watched from the window until he reached his car. He looked up before getting in and lifted one hand. I lifted mine. Then I went to bed and slept badly. Mom texted at 8 the next morning. "Your father came home very late." I wrote, "I know. He said he apologized." He did. She began typing. The dots stayed for almost a minute. "I'm glad the two of you worked things out." I read the message, waiting for the rest. Nothing came. "We didn't work things out," I wrote. "He took responsibility for his choice." "That's a start." Her answer arrived quickly. "We all made choices, Nora." "Yes." I set down the phone. Dad called at 10 and told me the turkey was finally thawed. He sounded cheerful but careful, like someone walking across ice he had personally ignored a warning sign about. "Your mother wants to know whether 4 hours at 3:25 is enough." "For what size?" He called into the room. "Elaine, how much does the turkey weigh?" Mom answered in the background. "Why are you asking her?" Dad covered the phone badly. "Because she knows. She said she didn't want to be involved. She isn't involved. I'm asking a cooking question." I heard a cabinet close. 16 pounds, he said. I gave him the cooking range and told him to use a thermometer. "Would you like some when it's done?" "No, thank you." "You sure?" "Yes." "All right." He accepted the answer without changing its shape. At noon, I drove to Simone's with a container of the rice I had been sent home with and spent Christmas Day watching terrible movies with her and Luis. Miguel joined us later, carrying hot dogs solely to restart the argument. My phone stayed mostly quiet. Near 6, Paige sent a long message. "Caleb and I had a horrible night because you discussed private family matters with him. I hope you understand that removing yourself didn't just affect you." Mom barely held dinner together. Dad was miserable, and I spent Christmas being judged by people I was trying to welcome into this family. I hope the satisfaction was worth it. I read it twice. Simone looked over from the other end of the couch. "Do you need an oven mitt?" "Maybe," I typed. "Caleb called me because you lied to him. I told him what happened. I did not remove myself. You asked Mom and Dad to do that, and they agreed. I won't argue about a version of events created to protect you from your own choices. I sent it before I could soften it." Paige answered almost immediately. "You always have to win." I looked around Simone's living room. Luis was asleep in an armchair with a paper plate on his chest. Miguel was trying to balance mustard bottles on his brother's knee. Simone had one sock on and one sock missing. Nothing about the room looked like victory. I wrote, This is not winning. Then I turned off my phone. When I turned my phone on the next morning, there were no new messages from Paige. Mom had sent a photograph of Dad carving the turkey. He was using a bread knife and holding the bird with a pair of barbecue tongs. It came out beautifully, she wrote. The photograph suggested otherwise. Dad sent his own message a few minutes later. May I return your roasting pan this afternoon? I smiled at the phrasing. Is it clean? Yes, actually clean or soaking. There was a delay. Soaking is part of cleaning. Tomorrow, I wrote. He arrived the following afternoon with the pan scrubbed, dried, and wrapped in a bath towel. I would like my towel back, he said. It's yours. Oh. He examined the blue stripes as though seeing them for the first time. I thought it looked familiar. The rack inside the pan still had grease baked into 2 corners. I noticed and said nothing. Dad noticed me noticing. I worked on that for 40 minutes. It looks great. Don't patronize me. I'm complimenting your progress. That's worse. He carried the pan into my kitchen and put it on the counter. Then he stood there with his hands empty, which seemed to confuse him. Coffee? I asked. Yes, please. He stayed for 2 hours. We did not talk about Christmas for the first hour. Dad told me one of the divorced neighbors had started dating a woman who owned 6 parrots. I told him Simone's theory about hot dogs. He insisted buns were merely bread envelopes, which satisfied neither side. At some point, he looked around my apartment and asked, How long have you had that lamp? 4 years. I've never noticed it. You usually come in carrying something broken. That's true. He glanced toward my desk, where folders from work were stacked beside a mug full of pens. Do you like your job? I stared at him. What? You've never asked me that. Of course I have. You ask whether work is busy. That's similar, it really isn't. He considered this. Do you like your job? He asked again. Most days, what do you like about it? The question was so basic it felt intimate. I told him. I described the satisfaction of taking a project nobody understood and making it orderly. I told him about Simone, who could identify a bad meeting by how many pastries management ordered. I told him I hated performance reviews and loved the quiet week between Christmas and New Year's when half the office disappeared. Dad listened. He did not use my answer to ask whether I could help organize his tax receipts. When he left, he asked if he could call later in the week. You don't need permission every time. I'm recalibrating. You really do love that word. It has range. Mom invited me to Sunday dinner by text. We're having pot roast. Come at 5. Can you bring that chocolate cake from Bell's? The request sat at the end of the invitation so naturally that for a moment I almost answered yes. Bell's was 20 minutes in the opposite direction, but Mom loved their chocolate cake and always complained that the slices were too large before finishing one. I wrote, Thank you, but I'm not ready for Sunday dinner. Her answer came immediately. You came to Christmas with Simone. Simone didn't ask me to pretend nothing happened. What are we supposed to do, Nora? Never eat together again? I didn't say never. Then when? When we can discuss what happened without calling it everyone's fault. She did not answer. An hour later, Aunt Denise called. Your mother wants to know if I think she should apologize. What did you say? I asked what she was sorry for. I sat down on my couch, and she said she was sorry the situation got out of hand. Of course. I told her situations don't have hands. I laughed. Denise continued. Then she said you're making her afraid to say the wrong thing. I'm not asking for perfect words. I know. I'm asking her to admit she chose Paige. I know. Dad did. I know that too. There was a pause. Mom sent you to check whether I'm softening, I said. She didn't send me, but you're checking. Yes. I could hear Monica talking somewhere behind her, followed by the scrape of a chair. Denise lowered her voice. Your mother is angry with your father. For apologizing? For going to your apartment without her. That sounds healthy. She says he made them look divided. They were divided. In your mother's mind, marriage means presenting one answer even if it's produced by hostage negotiation. I rubbed my forehead. I'm not trying to get between them. I know. But Martin has started using complete sentences, and it's alarming everybody. Dad called twice that week without needing anything. The first time, he told me he had installed the furnace filter with the arrow pointing the correct way. The second time, he asked if I wanted to have breakfast Saturday. At Mom's? At a restaurant? Is Mom coming? No. The answer came too quickly. Does she know? She knows I eat breakfast. Dad. He sighed. I told her I was inviting you. She thinks it would be better if we all met. What do you think? I think if the three of us meet, she'll spend the whole time trying to make sure nobody is upset, and that will upset everyone. Exactly. We met at a diner where the menus were laminated and the coffee arrived before we sat down. Dad was already in a booth. He had replaced the brown cardigan with a navy one that looked almost identical, except for having both elbows. What happened? I asked. To what? The classic. Your mother threw it away. Did you let her? I was outnumbered. By one woman? You've met her. He ordered eggs over easy and then complained that the yolks were runny. I ordered pancakes. We talked about ordinary things until the waitress refilled our coffee for the third time. Then Dad said, I've been thinking about what you said. That sounds dangerous. About you being the easier daughter to hurt. I set down my fork. He turned his mug between his hands. It wasn't only Christmas. No, I know. He caught himself and gave me a rueful look. Sorry. It's fine. No, I keep saying that like knowing earns me something. That surprised me. He continued. When Paige needed money after Trevor, your mother and I gave it to her. I know. But when you changed apartments that same year, we let you hire movers because you had it handled. I did have it handled. That doesn't mean we couldn't have offered. I looked at the syrup streak on my plate. Dad said, when your grandmother was sick, you drove her to appointments. Paige visited twice and brought those lemon cookies she liked. Your grandmother talked about the cookies for months. She liked Paige. She loved both of you. She enjoyed Paige. The distinction came out sharper than I intended. Dad nodded slowly. Yes. He did not correct me or offer one of his usual reminders that love looked different with different people. I don't want an audit, I said. What? I don't want us to go through every year and decide who owes what. I'd never stop. That's fair. I just don't want to keep doing it. Doing what? Making all of you comfortable enough not to notice. Dad looked toward the window. A bus passed outside, smearing dirty snow along the curb. I don't want you to either, he said. When the check arrived, he took it before I could. I invited you. I can pay half. I know you can. He put his card down. That tiny sentence nearly undid me more than his Christmas apology had. Outside the diner, he hugged me. Dad had always hugged by patting twice and releasing, as if checking for structural damage. This time he held on long enough that I could feel him breathe. Mom's car was in front of my apartment when I got home. She sat behind the wheel with both hands on the steering wheel. When I parked, she got out carrying a casserole dish covered in foil. You didn't answer my message, she said. I did answer. You said you weren't coming. That was the answer. Her eyes were puffy, though her makeup was careful. She held the casserole between us. I made you pot roast. I have food. I know you have food. Then why did you bring it? Because I'm your mother. The foil had been pressed tightly around the edges. My name was written on top in black marker. I unlocked the building door and held it for her. Upstairs, she placed the dish on my kitchen counter and looked around. Your father says you have a new lamp. It's 4 years old. She touched the edge of the lampshade. He's suddenly very interested in details. You say that like it's suspicious. I'm glad the two of you are talking. But there is no but. Mom removed her coat and folded it over the back of a chair. She had come prepared to stay. I put the casserole in the refrigerator. Would you like coffee? No? Tea? No. I leaned against the counter. She looked at the roasting pan, which I had not yet put away. Your father didn't clean the corners. I know. You'll need steel wool. I know. She flinched, and I regretted the repetition immediately. Mom sat at the table. I don't know how to talk to you anymore. You could start with Christmas. I have apologized for Christmas. When? I said I was sorry it became such a mess. That isn't an apology for what you did. Her hands tightened in her lap. I was placed in an impossible position. By Paige. By both of you. No. Paige said one of us could come. I never said that. You made it clear you would not let the issue go, so you removed me. I thought you would understand. I did understand. Mom's face crumpled. Then why are you still punishing me? I stared at her. She had come all the way across town with pot roast and grief, and still the only change she could imagine was my cruelty. I'm not punishing you, I said. I'm letting you feel what you chose. That sounds like the same thing. It probably does when I'm usually the one who makes the feeling go away. She stood so quickly the chair legs scraped the floor. Your father has decided I'm the villain because he wants to be forgiven first. This isn't a race. It feels like one. Then stop competing and apologize. Her eyes flashed. I'm sorry, she said. I am sorry I believed my stronger daughter could handle one disappointing Christmas. There it was again. Strength, given as praise and used as permission. I opened the apartment door. Mom looked at me as though I had slapped her. The pot roast is in the refrigerator, I said. Do you want it back? She took her coat from the chair. No, she said. You always did like leftovers. I ate the pot roast for 3 nights. It was excellent. Mom's pot roast was always excellent, which irritated me every time I opened the refrigerator. The carrots were soft without dissolving. The gravy had exactly enough pepper. She had tucked 2 dinner rolls along the side because she knew I liked dipping them into the sauce. Love was in the dish, so was avoidance. On the 3rd night, Dad called while I was scraping the last of the gravy onto a plate. Your mother came home upset, I assumed. She says you threw her out. I opened the door. She understood the visual. He sighed. Don't, I said. Don't what? Translate. Don't tell me what Mom meant or tell Mom what I meant. You apologized for your part. That doesn't make you the family mediator. I wasn't trying to mediate. You called because she's upset. I also called because I wanted to hear your voice. I went quiet. Dad added, both things can be true. He was getting inconveniently good at this. Fine, I said. How was your day? Your mother isn't speaking to me. That wasn't what I asked. No, but it was the most interesting part. I laughed. We talked for 15 minutes. He did not return to Mom, and I did not ask him to choose between us. When we hung up, I washed the casserole dish and put it in a cabinet instead of driving it back to my parents' house. Mom did not contact me again that month. The silence was effective. It made me question whether my boundary had been a boundary at all or simply a more respectable word for stubbornness. I would reach for my phone when something reminded me of her, the purple-haired woman at the grocery store, an advertisement for Belle's chocolate cake, a display of unsalted butter, and stop myself because I could not think of anything to say that did not reopen the same door. Dad kept calling. He began coming to my neighborhood for Saturday breakfast. The second week, he arrived 7 minutes late and apologized without blaming traffic. The third week, he brought me a newspaper article about office organization, having apparently concluded from one conversation that I was professionally passionate about labeled folders. This says clutter can affect your cortisol, he told me. You still have 11-month-old car magazines on your coffee table. That is archived research. Your cortisol must be spectacular. We did not become a different father and daughter. He still asked me where Mom stored the batteries. I still knew. The difference was that sometimes he found them himself before calling. Paige remained silent too. I heard about her through Mom's silence, Dad's careful omissions, and Aunt Denise's complete inability to preserve confidentiality. Caleb postponed the venue tour, Denise told me one evening. Why? Your mother says work. What do you say? I say men rarely discover urgent work on a Saturday afternoon unless the work is avoiding a fiancé. That isn't my business. Correct. You called to tell me. I called to ask what you're getting me for my birthday. Emotional restraint. Keep the receipt. Denise's birthday dinner was at a neighborhood Italian restaurant where the ceiling was painted to resemble a cloudy blue sky. Monica had reserved a long table in the back and warned everyone that anyone who started a family fight would pay the bar bill. "You're using alcohol to promote peace," Dad said. "I'm using consequences," Monica replied. Mom arrived carrying a bakery box. She kissed Denise, hugged Monica, and greeted me with a polite, "Hello, Nora," that would have been appropriate at a dental office. "Hi, Mom." Her eyes moved over my dress, my earrings, my face. I could see the compliments she was withholding because compliments might suggest surrender. "You look nice, too," I said. She frowned. I didn't say anything. "I know." Dad coughed into his napkin. Paige and Caleb came separately. Paige arrived first, 12 minutes late, wearing dark green and the engagement ring she kept twisting around her finger. She hugged Denise and sat beside Mom. Caleb appeared 10 minutes later and took the empty chair beside Paige. She kissed his cheek. He smiled. Their timing was wrong. The performance had lost its rehearsal. Caleb greeted me quietly across the table. He looked thinner than he had at Thanksgiving, though that might have been the blue shirt. Dinner moved in cautious circles. Aunt Denise told a story about Monica trying to repair a garbage disposal after watching one online video. Dad retold the parrot neighbor story and forgot he had already told Denise, but nobody mocked him. Mom ordered wine and drank half a glass. Paige talked about a hotel she and Caleb were considering for the wedding reception. Caleb corrected the location. "It's in Brookfield," he said. "I know where it is. You said Brighton." I misspoke. The conversation continued around them. When the appetizers came, the server placed calamari near Paige. She slid it toward Caleb. "You like this?" "I'm fine. You always order it." I said, "I'm fine." Her hand stayed on the plate for a second before she pulled it back. I looked away. Halfway through dinner, Mom leaned toward me. "Can you ask for extra plates for the cake?" The request was so normal that I nearly lifted my hand. Then I said, "Monica is handling the cake." Mom blinked. "I'm just asking you to get plates, and I'm telling you who to ask. For heaven's sake, Nora, it isn't Christmas dinner. No, it's Denise's birthday." Denise looked up from 3 seats away. "What about me? Do you need extra plates?" I asked. "The restaurant has plates." Mom pressed her lips together. A few minutes later, when the server came by, Mom asked for the plates herself. The ceiling did not collapse. Nobody went hungry. She even thanked him. After dinner, I went to the restroom and found Paige standing at the mirror, reapplying lipstick she did not need. She met my eyes in the reflection. "Are you going to ask?" "Ask what?" "About Caleb." "No." She capped the lipstick. "Denise told you." "Probably." "What did she say?" "That a venue tour was postponed." Paige laughed bitterly. "Of course she did. She also said it wasn't my business. That's never stopped this family." I washed my hands. Paige leaned against the counter. "He thinks I use people." I looked at her reflection. "Did he say that?" "He said I treat help like something I'm entitled to. That's more specific. Thank you for the distinction. You brought it up." She turned to face me. "He keeps going back to the catering order. Like one bad decision defines our entire relationship. Does it?" "No." "Then you should be able to explain why you made it." "I have explained. To him or to yourself." Her face changed. I turned off the water and reached for a paper towel. "You love that," she said. "What?" "The moment when you get to say something like that and feel profound. I don't feel profound in a restaurant bathroom. You wanted him to see me the way you see me. I didn't call him. But you told him everything. I corrected the things you told him about me. You could have protected me." The words came out smaller than the rest. I dropped the paper towel into the trash. "From what?" "From looking awful. You used my name and card for a dinner you excluded me from. I know what happened. Then how was I supposed to make it look good? You make things look good all the time." There was no accusation in her voice now, just an old expectation, almost childlike despite both of us being well into adulthood. I leaned against the opposite counter. "Paige, protecting you has usually meant lying about what it costs me. I never asked you to protect me. You just did." She looked down at her ring. From the restaurant, we heard a burst of laughter. Aunt Denise's voice rose above it, protesting some detail of a story. Paige said, "You like being needed." The sentence hit because it was true. She continued before I could answer. "You act like we all forced you into this role, but you step in before anybody has a chance. If Mom starts looking for a serving spoon, you're already opening the drawer. If Dad forgets something, you answer for him. You don't just help. You make everyone watch you help." I folded my arms. "You're right," I said. She looked up, startled. "I do step in too quickly. Sometimes because it's easier than watching all of you do things badly. Sometimes because I like being the person who knows." Paige's expression went wary, as though agreement might be a trap. "But that doesn't turn my credit card into community property," I said, "and it doesn't make banning me acceptable." Her shoulders dropped. "You always add the but, because two things can be true. Dad said that to you, didn't he?" "Yes. He's very evolved now." The resentment in her voice was unmistakable. "You could talk to him. He's too busy having breakfast with you. He invited me." "Exactly." I stared at her. "Are you angry that he apologized to me? I'm angry that you get to blow up the whole family and then have some meaningful new relationship with Dad while Mom cries and Caleb looks at me like he doesn't know me. I didn't blow up the family. You stopped doing your part. My part was absorbing everything. No, your part was caring." The restroom door opened. A woman entered, saw us facing each other across the sinks, and immediately chose a stall. Paige lowered her voice. "You don't get to withdraw every good thing you've ever done and claim it was exploitation. I haven't. It feels like you have." That was honest enough to hurt. I picked up my purse. "I care about you," I said. "I'm just not going to prove it by making your consequences disappear." She looked toward the mirror again. "Caleb says we should postpone wedding planning." "I'm sorry." "No, you're not. I am. I don't want you to lose him, just the version of me he liked. I want him to know the real version and stay, because that version takes responsibility." Her eyes filled, but she smiled without humor. "There you go." Profound in a restaurant bathroom. I opened the door. When we returned to the table, Denise was cutting the cake herself with a knife the restaurant had provided. Mom was passing plates. Dad had switched seats so Monica could sit beside him and show him photographs of the repaired garbage disposal. Nobody needed me. The realization still carried a small ache. Caleb stood when I reached my chair and moved it back for me. Paige watched him do it. After cake, Mom packed 2 leftover slices into a cardboard box. She gave one to Paige, then she held the other toward me. "For later," she said. "No assignment, no condition." I took it. "Thank you." Her fingers stayed on the box for half a second after mine closed around it. The next morning, Mom texted. "Dinner, Sunday at 5. You don't need to bring anything. No pressure if you're not ready." I read the message several times. Then I wrote, "Thank you for asking. I'm not ready yet, but I'd like to have coffee with you somewhere neutral." Her answer did not come until evening. "All right, you choose the place." It was not an apology, but it was the first invitation she had offered that did not arrive carrying a job. I chose a coffee shop halfway between our homes. Mom arrived 12 minutes early and selected a table near the window. She had already taken off her coat and arranged it over the chair beside her, effectively giving me one place to sit. Some habits survived neutrality. She stood when I approached. "I didn't know what you wanted," she said, indicating 2 empty cups. "So I didn't order for you. Thank you." Her expression tightened as though I might have been sarcastic. I wasn't. I bought coffee and returned to the table. Mom had taken a small notebook from her purse but put it away when she saw me looking. "What was that?" "Nothing." "Did you bring notes? I didn't know whether there were things you wanted to discuss. So you made an agenda?" I wrote down a few thoughts. I held out my hand. "No." "Mom." "They're private. You brought them to a public coffee shop." She pushed the notebook deeper into her purse. "This was a mistake. We've been here 40 seconds. And already you're making fun of me." "I'm not. I'm surprised. Your father said I should listen and not become defensive. Did he use the word defensive? He used several words. I smiled into my coffee. Mom watched me. He enjoys being right now. It's new for him. That's what I said. For one brief second, we were on the same side of a joke. Then both of us remembered why we were there. Mom folded her hands around her cup. I don't want to lose you. The directness caught me off guard. You haven't. It feels like I have. I'm sitting here, but you don't come to the house. You don't answer the way you used to. Your father sees you every week and comes home full of things I didn't know about your life. You could ask me things. I don't know what I'm allowed to ask. That's dramatic. So was opening the door and asking whether I wanted my pot roast back. I looked out the window. A woman in a red knit hat was trying to persuade a small dog to walk through a patch of slush. The dog had planted all 4 feet and appeared committed to death. I was angry, I said. So was I. I know. Mom's mouth moved at the phrase, but she let it pass. I didn't come here to fight about the pot roast, she said. Good. I came because your father believes I haven't apologized correctly. This isn't a password. There's no correct sequence that unlocks me. That's how it feels. What are you sorry for? Her hands tightened around the cup. I am sorry Christmas became what it did. That's the same thing you've already said. I know you don't like it. It removes you from the sentence. She leaned back. Everything is language with you now, because language is how you keep pretending nobody made a decision. Christmas became a mess. The situation got out of hand. Everyone was backed into a corner. We were. Who is we? Your father and I. Who put you there? Mom looked down at her tea. Paige, she said. It was barely audible. And what did you do? I tried to keep her from leaving by asking me to. I didn't think of it like that. I know. That's the problem. She rubbed one thumb over the other. Her nails were painted pale pink, one edge chipped. When Paige moved in with Trevor, Mom said, she didn't speak to us for almost 4 months. Dad told me. I thought I had lost her. I would call and she'd let it ring. I sent messages. I went to her apartment and she wouldn't come down. I didn't know that. We didn't tell you everything. You called me to drive groceries over there. Mom's eyes lifted. I thought she was sick, I said. You told me she had the flu. She wasn't eating properly. So you lied to me and sent me because she wouldn't punish me. I was scared. You were always scared of losing Paige. Yes. What were you scared of with me? She looked at me for a long time. You never made me afraid you'd leave. The answer should not have hurt. It was evidence of my loyalty, my reliability, the good things I had chosen to be. It hurt anyway, so I became the safe loss. No. Yes. I did not want to lose you. You were willing to risk it. Mom's eyes filled. She reached for a napkin and pressed it beneath one eye. I thought you would forgive us, she said. You and Dad should compare notes. He told me what he said. And I was furious. Because he admitted it? Because he got to say it first. I stared at her. Mom gave a small, miserable laugh. I know how that sounds. It sounds honest. She folded the damp napkin into a narrow strip. I spent so many years worrying about what Paige might do that I stopped asking what you might feel, she said. You were always there. You came on Sundays. You remembered birthdays. You called your father. You answered me even when you were angry. I thought that was what love looked like. It is. Not if you use it as insurance. Her face tightened. I expected her to tell me I was cruel. Instead, she nodded. No, she said. Not if I use it that way. The dog outside finally leaped over the slush, jerking its owner forward. Mom watched them pass. I am sorry I asked you not to come to Christmas, she said. Paige made me choose, and I chose the daughter I thought I could lose. I swallowed. You chose the daughter you thought you couldn't lose. That's what I meant. No, you protected Paige because you thought she could leave. You sacrificed me because you thought I couldn't. Mom closed her eyes. "Yes," she said. That. The apology did not heal anything instantly. It made the wound clearer, which was different and, for the moment, enough. "What do you want me to do?" she asked. "Stop asking that like there's a task that fixes it. I genuinely don't know." "Then let not knowing be uncomfortable." She gave me a tired look. "You have become very fond of discomfort. I've had practice." We stayed another hour. The conversation moved unevenly. Mom apologized, then defended herself, then apologized for the defense. I admitted that I had turned competence into a form of control sometimes, stepping in before anyone else could fail. She admitted she had been relieved every time I did. When we left, she hugged me outside the coffee shop. It was not a full reconciliation. I did not promise Sunday dinner. She did not ask. A few days later, she called to ask whether I had room for a favor. The phrasing was so unfamiliar, I almost asked her to repeat it. "What favor?" "Can you take your father to pick up his car Friday? I have an appointment." "I can't Friday." "All right, I'll ask Denise." That was the entire conversation. I sat at my desk afterward, phone in hand, waiting for guilt to arrive. It came, but quietly. It did not require action. Mom and I met for coffee twice more. Dad continued breakfast. Sometimes he invited Mom, but only after asking me. The first time all three of us met, she corrected his order. He told her he had selected the hash browns intentionally, and I watched them navigate the disagreement without using me as a witness. Paige did not contact me. Aunt Denise reported that she and Caleb were still together but had stopped discussing wedding dates. I told Denise I did not want updates unless Paige volunteered them. "You're ruining my purpose in life," she said. "Find parrots." Mom invited me to Easter 3 weeks ahead. Her message said, "We are having dinner at 3. You, Paige, Caleb, Denise, and Monica are invited. Everyone has received an invitation. No one controls anyone else's attendance." I read the last sentence twice. "Does Paige know I'm invited?" I asked. "Yes." "Did she threaten not to come?" Mom's reply took several minutes. She said it might be uncomfortable. I told her discomfort is survivable. I could hear my own language coming back at me. It was annoying and gratifying. "Am I expected to bring anything?" I asked. Mom answered, "I was going to ask for dessert." A second message appeared. "Actually, no, you are not expected to bring anything. If you want to bring something, tell me first so I don't duplicate it." I wrote, "I'll come. I'm not bringing anything." Mom reacted with a heart. Paige texted me that evening. "Mom says you're coming to Easter." "Yes, Caleb will be there." Okay, I don't want another scene. Neither do I. The typing dots appeared and disappeared several times. Finally, she wrote, "Fine." Easter morning, I woke at 7 and spent 2 hours resisting the urge to make something. I considered rolls, then remembered Mom would have rolls. I considered flowers, then remembered Paige always brought flowers. I nearly drove to Bell's for chocolate cake simply because arriving empty-handed felt like arriving unprepared for weather. At noon, Mom sent, "Everything is under control." I suspected Dad had taken her phone. At 2:30, I put on a blue dress, picked up my purse, and left my apartment carrying nothing else. I arrived at 2:58. Dad opened the door before I rang the bell. "You're on time," he said. I said 3. He hugged me. "Your mother thought you might come early." "To help?" She didn't say that. She thought it loudly. From the kitchen, Mom called, "I can hear both of you." The house smelled like ham, butter, and the lemon cleaner Mom used whenever company was coming. The dining table had both leaves installed. A new white tablecloth covered it, slightly short at the ends. Mom came into the hallway wiping her hands on an apron. "You came," she said. I said I would. I know. She hugged me carefully, as though sudden movement might send me back through the door. Aunt Denise and Monica arrived a few minutes later with wine and a lemon tart. Mom accepted both without asking who had brought serving utensils. Paige and Caleb were late. At 3:17, the front door opened. Paige entered carrying grocery store flowers. Caleb followed with a bakery box. For a moment, we all stood within sight of one another. Paige looked less polished than she had at Denise's birthday. Her hair was loose and faint shadows sat beneath her eyes. The ring was still on her hand. "Hi," she said, "hi." She gave the flowers to Mom. "I brought the cake you asked for." Mom looked at me, then quickly back at Paige. "Thank you. Put it in the kitchen." Paige's eyes moved to my empty hands. I waited for the comment. None came. Dinner was awkward in ordinary ways. Dad overcooked the ham slightly. Monica dropped a roll. Denise told Mom the tablecloth looked nice, and Mom said, "I bought it with more pride than the object deserved." Paige sat across from me. Caleb sat beside her. They spoke politely, but did not anticipate each other anymore. When Paige reached for the salt, Caleb did not pass it until she asked. Dad told the turkey fryer story. I watched Paige. She looked down at her plate, then back at him. "What happened to the pot afterward?" she asked. Dad brightened. "That's the best part." I had heard the best part at least 15 times. I listened anyway. After dessert, Mom began gathering plates. I stood automatically. She looked at me. Neither of us spoke. Then I sat back down. The dishes did not stop moving. Dad carried the glasses. Monica wrapped the leftover ham. Caleb collected napkins. Denise supervised everybody while contributing nothing. Paige stayed in her chair across from me. When the others had moved into the kitchen, she touched the edge of her engagement ring. "Can we talk?" she asked. The house had gone loud around us, running water, cabinets closing, Mom telling Dad not to put knives in the sink. I looked at my sister. "Yes," I said, "but not if the conversation starts with what I did to you." Paige looked toward the kitchen. "I wasn't going to start that way. You usually don't plan it. Can you not do that?" "Do what?" "Make one little comment so I know you're already ahead of me." I folded my hands on the table. "Fine. No, now you're being formal." "Paige." "I know." She pressed her fingers to her forehead. "I know." In the kitchen, Dad dropped something metal. Mom said, "Martin," with the exhausted precision of a woman who had been waiting all day to say it. Denise laughed. Paige twisted her ring once, then stopped herself. "Caleb says I don't know how to apologize. Do you agree? I think apologies are supposed to end things." "That wasn't the question." "See? I'm not trying to trap you. It always feels like you are." She looked across the table at me, waiting for a correction. I let the silence stay. Her shoulders lowered a fraction. "Fine," she said. "I don't know how to apologize if the other person might still be angry afterward. That's not an apology. That's a transaction. I'm trying, Nora." "Okay." He says I explain my intentions instead of acknowledging what I did. "Caleb?" "Yes." "How's that going?" "Badly." Despite everything, I smiled. Paige did too. It lasted less than a second. She looked toward the slightly short tablecloth. Her thumbnail worried at a loose thread near the edge. "I knew your catering credit was there," she said. I figured. Mom mentioned it when I said Lillian's deposit was too high. Then when you forwarded the old email, the order number was at the top. I called and Lillian pulled up the account. Under my name. "Yes. Did you ever ask her to change it?" "No." "Why?" "Because she knew you. She said she could squeeze us in because you had used her for years. So you let her believe I was involved." "Yes." The admission came quietly. "Did you think she wouldn't call me? I thought you knew." "How would I know?" "Because Mom knew. I thought you two had discussed it. Mom thought you were handling it. I know that now. And when you added the tenderloin and crab?" Paige's face colored. "I thought Caleb's mother would like them. That isn't what I asked." "I know." She released the tablecloth. "I thought the balance would go on your card," she said. "Then Mom and Dad would pay you." "Did they agree to that?" "Not exactly." "Did I?" "No." The kitchen noises seemed louder. Water ran. A drawer opened and closed. Someone tore foil from a roll. Paige said, "That's how it always worked. Because I agreed before. Sometimes you just did it. That still wasn't permission forever." "I know." There was the phrase that had driven me crazy from Dad. From Paige, it sounded unfamiliar, as if she had borrowed it and did not yet know how to hold it. "Then why didn't you call Lillian before the deadline?" I asked. She offered to reduce the menu. I was trying to move money. From where? Does it matter? It mattered when you expected mine. She flinched. "I could have paid the reduced order," she said. "Probably. But I would have had to tell Caleb why I needed to move things around. He thought the whole dinner was already covered, so you let the deadline pass. I thought Lillian would extend it. Because of me." "Yes." The word barely left her mouth. I leaned back. Paige rubbed her palms over the skirt of her dress. "I kept thinking you would call, to rescue it, to fix it. Same thing. No." She looked up. "That's part of what I'm trying to say." I waited. When you fix something, it doesn't feel like rescue. It feels like what happens next. Mom forgets ice, you bring ice. Dad's window won't close, you show up. I plan Christmas, you handle the payment. I didn't sit there thinking, Nora will save me because I'm helpless. I barely thought about you at all. Her eyes filled. I know that sounds worse. It does. I know. She looked down again. "I wanted you out of the room," Paige said. "I didn't want you gone from everything." The honesty was ugly enough to be real. What does that mean? It means I didn't want you watching me with Caleb's family. I didn't want every mistake reflected on your face. I wanted one holiday where I wasn't your irresponsible younger sister. So you made me the invisible older sister. I guess. You still wanted my tablecloths. Yes. My caterer. Yes. My credit. Yes. But not me. Paige's chin trembled. I didn't understand those were the same thing to you. They weren't the same thing. That was the problem. She frowned. My labor was useful, I said. My presence was inconvenient. You treated my care like a resource you could keep after ending the relationship. I didn't end our relationship. You told Mom not to invite me to Christmas. I thought you would apologize. For what? For making me feel small at Thanksgiving. You mocked Dad, and you called me 12 in front of Caleb. I apologized for that. To Mom. I told you at the apartment that I was wrong to say it. You followed it with 5 other reasons I was worse. I opened my mouth, then closed it. She was right. I had admitted the insult without giving her much room to feel it. "I'm sorry," I said. "Calling you 12 was cruel. I wanted to embarrass you because you embarrassed Dad." Paige stared at me. "There," I said. "You can still be angry afterward." Her mouth twitched, but she did not smile. "I am." "Okay. I didn't tell Mom to ban you. You said you wouldn't come if I did. I said I didn't feel safe. You knew what she would hear." Paige looked toward the kitchen doorway. "Yes," she said. "I knew. Did you know she would choose you?" Another pause. "Yes, that one hurt even after all these months. Why? Because she always chooses whoever is most upset. You made sure that was you." "Yes." Her voice broke. I watched her wipe under her eye with one finger, careful not to smear her makeup. Even now, some part of me wanted to offer a napkin before she had to ask. I kept my hands on the table. Paige said, "I don't know how to say all of this without making it sound like you won. You keep saying that. Because you were right. That isn't winning. It feels like losing to me. Maybe that's the part you have to fix." "I know." She laughed weakly. "There it is again. You'll get better at it. God, you're annoying. So are you." We sat with that. Then she took a breath. "I'm sorry I made Mom choose," she said. "I'm sorry I knew she would choose me. I'm sorry I let Caleb believe you decided not to come. And I'm sorry I put your name on the order." She rushed the last sentence, then forced herself to slow down. "I thought you would handle it because you always handled things, even if you weren't there." The title incident, the entire impossible contradiction, sat between us in one plain sentence. "What did you think would happen afterward?" I asked. "You'd be furious. Mom would pay you back. We wouldn't speak for a while. And then something would happen. What?" She gave me a helpless look. Dad's birthday, Mom's sink. Denise would invite everyone somewhere. You'd come back, because I always did. Paige had not imagined reconciliation. She had imagined an occasion that would allow us to skip it. I'm not doing that anymore, I said. Her face tightened. I apologized. I heard you. Then what does that mean? It means your apology matters. It doesn't mean I go back to being available without limits. What limits? You don't use my name, accounts, cards, belongings, or time without asking. You don't give Mom ultimatums about whether I can attend family events. If you need something, you ask me directly, and I'm allowed to say no without becoming cruel. That sounds like a contract. It sounds like how most adults already behave. She looked offended, then reluctantly amused. And it goes both ways, I added. I won't step in before you ask. I won't correct you in front of everyone unless somebody is being hurt. I won't treat every mistake you make like proof of a larger case. Paige studied me. You really do like contracts. I like clear expectations. Because you're fun. I wasn't invited for fun. The joke slipped out before I could stop it. Pain moved across her face. I'm sorry, I said. That was cheap. No, it was. The kitchen faucet shut off. Mom appeared in the doorway, drying her hands. Is everything all right? Paige and I both looked at her. Mom's eyes moved between us, searching for her role. We're talking, I said. Do you need me? No, Paige said. Mom looked surprised. Then, with visible effort, she nodded and returned to the kitchen. Paige watched her go. That was strange. She's recalibrating. Paige rolled her eyes. Dad. Yes. She turned the engagement ring again. Caleb and I haven't picked a new wedding date, she said. You told me. He wants us to be able to disagree without one of us rewriting what happened afterward. That seems reasonable. It's extremely irritating. I believe that. He's still here, I noticed. He says staying isn't the same as pretending it's fine. Also irritatingly reasonable. You like him better than me. Right now? She gave me a look. I don't want you to lose him, I said. I know. Do you? Paige looked toward the kitchen where Caleb was laughing at something Monica had said. I'm starting to. It was not a promise that their engagement would survive. It was more useful, an acknowledgement that survival would require something from her besides wanting it. Dad came into the dining room holding the empty cake box. Your mother wants to know who's taking the last 2 slices. Ask her, Paige and I said together. He stopped. Then he grinned. That sounded almost sisterly. Don't ruin it, Paige said. Dad backed into the kitchen with the box. I checked the time. It was 5:20. I'm going to leave. Paige glanced toward the sink. Before cleanup? Yes. She almost smiled. Who are you? A guest. Your family. Those aren't opposites. She nodded slowly. Are we okay? She asked. No. Her eyes dropped. But we're talking, I said. She looked up again. Okay. I stood. For years, leaving while other people cleaned would have felt like walking out without shoes. I could hear plates touching, the dishwasher opening, Mom asking where the large storage containers were. My body knew the answer. Lower pantry, behind the mixing bowls. I did not call it out. In the hallway, I put on my coat. Mom came from the kitchen carrying a foil-wrapped slice of cake. For later, she said. Thank you. I was going to ask if you could stop by Thursday to help me sort the hall closet. I waited. She took a breath. But I can do it. If you want company while you do it, ask me Thursday. I might be free. Her face softened. All right. Dad hugged me next. His navy cardigan already had a small spot of gravy near the cuff. Breakfast Saturday? He asked. Yes, my turn to choose the restaurant. As long as you don't complain about the eggs you ordered. I make no such promise. Aunt Denise called from the kitchen. You're leaving before dishes? I'm so proud, Monica said. She didn't wash dishes at my birthday either. She's slipping. I laughed. Caleb appeared behind them with a dish towel over one shoulder. Happy Easter, Nora. Happy Easter. Paige stood near the dining room entrance. She had taken off her ring and placed it beside the sink while washing glasses. The pale band of skin remained around her finger, but the ring was close enough to reach when she was ready. She lifted one hand. I lifted mine. Outside, the afternoon was cool and bright. Through the front window, I could see everyone moving around the kitchen. Dad opened the wrong cabinet. Mom pointed him toward the right one, then stopped herself and let him look. Paige dried a plate and handed it to Caleb. Denise leaned against the counter, still supervising. The tablecloth was too short. The ham had been overcooked. The cake slices were uneven. Nothing collapsed. I placed Mom's cake on the passenger seat and drove home with my hands smelling only faintly of coffee, not dish soap,